Welcome in to a Tuesday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show. It's a weird takeoff.
That was weird. It sounded weird, like you were far away.
Yeah. Welcome in here to the Noodle.
All good. The same thing it always is.
It's pretty Tuesday morning. Lloyd is here. Stewie is here. The carpool queen is here. Off the jump, we're going to talk to, at 8 o'clock this morning, Brody Miller had a great write-up about Joe Burrow here on Super Bowl week. A couple of things that stood out in covering Burrow. Also talked up and wrapped up talking about the recruiting season, Brian Kelly's staff, and we'll talk to him a little bit about LSU football. Straight up 8 a.m. this morning. Then Mike Triplett's going to stop by from ESPN.com as he covers the New Orleans Saints. Triplett, of course, at the center of the story, or everybody down there in the New Orleans media, with Dennis Allen being named the head coach. Not a lot of surprise in the room this morning from our crew. As we were talking about Allen being named, I think he was the heavy favorite. It is surprising to hear that Pete Carmichael is going to stay on, but not as the offensive coordinator.
Interesting. I wonder where DA gets to make his first move.
Kyler Murray is scrubbing all of his social media. He unfollowed the Cardinals. Everything's so dramatic in 2022.
That's very dramatic.
With the superstars and their teams. We'll talk about that coming up on the Jordy Culotta Show before we get out of here at 9 a.m. LSU basketball back on the wood tonight. They're taking on Texas A&M. Anybody see Reese Beekman, the Baton Rouge native, last night knock down the game winner in Cameron Indoor versus Duke?
I did not.
Off the screen. Huge shot for Beekman, the Baton Rouge native. It was a hell of a moment. Jay and I were watching it live. And Beekman was in foul trouble the entire night. He couldn't really catch a rhythm, but they had him on the floor for the end of the game, and he was actually the inbounder. He threw the ball in.
Most dangerous man on the floor.
I'm telling you, man, Duke kind of lost sight of him. The guy that was supposed to be guarding him slid back into the paint. Beekman got a wide-open look at the corner three in Cameron Indoor with people just yelling down his neck. Buried it. It was a beautiful moment for the Baton Rouge native. Scotlandville Hornet, ex-Scotlandville Hornet. Carlos Samples guy. So congratulations to Beekman. It was a great moment. We will talk to, as we said, with the news of Dennis Allen. We're going to talk to Mike Triplett coming up here at 8:30 this morning. Remember, daily we're brought to you by Go Chevrolet, our friends over at Go, driving us, GEAUX, Chevrolet.com. Lee Carney, Nick Richard, and the crew. Couple of locations. If you're looking for a new car, they're over in LaPlace. If you want a used car, they're down here in Baton Rouge at Go Express Auto Sales. If you're up in Tennessee listening, check them out at Go Chevrolet. Our water daily is True Blue Water, TRU, bluewater.com. All of our sound is brought back to you by RMB Builders, and our daily spice is Papa Earls. 30% less sodium than the competition. Papa Earls, wherever you shop locally. Pick it up, Rouse's, Calandro's, High Neighbor. And our phone line is daily brought to you by Metropolitan Health Group. Real doctors, real solutions. Charlie Harvey, Jason Ramazan, everybody over at Metropolitan Health Group. Daily bringing you our phone lines. Saints hired Dennis Allen, and they decide they want to stick with just trying to keep the culture in place. With how can you really argue with that? The Saints, to me, up to this point, the last 16 years with Sean Payton, Mickey Loomis, and they have built, to me, has been a model of consistency in a league that struggles to find year in, year out success. It didn't matter who the Saints had on the roster. It didn't matter who was really kind of shuffling in from a coaching staff. The Saints were always pretty steady under the direction of Sean Payton. Always moving forward, always thinking forward, always kind of at the cutting edge of what was happening in the sport of football. And to try and keep that in place makes a ton of sense. Dennis Allen is going to stay on. A couple of former New Orleans Saints interviewed for this job, including Aaron Glenn, who's the Detroit Lions defensive coordinator, Kansas City offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, as we highlighted yesterday, spent 8 hours in New Orleans over the weekend interviewing for the job. Special teams coordinator with the Saints, Darren Rizzi, had a, by all accounts, really impressive look. Looking forward to talking to Triplett about what was some of the feedback of the interview process, because it felt like it was going to be Allen the entire time. I think as soon as this thing opened up and Sean Payton announced that he was stepping down, I think the obvious top candidate was Dennis Allen. His name had kind of popped up in the offseason as potential head coach at some open vacancies around the league, which they're all starting and really filled up now, with Dennis Allen being named the head coach down here in New Orleans. But he was the guy that really made the most sense just from a perspective of kind of outside looking in, right? I mean, like he was he was there. He had the head coaching pedigree. He had spent time in Oakland. And while his time in Oakland wasn't wildly successful, it was, it was crazy where Oakland was coming from. They were in the dark ages of their franchise, the end of Al Davis, the delusional Al Davis part of the story, where he thought it was still the 70s when he was really, in his grave. But
what's his timeline with Lane Kiffin?
Early 2000. Kiffin was there before Tennessee. He was like 28 years old. Okay,
so it wasn't
Dennis
TE,
Allen
wasn't
and Lane Kiffin?
Right. I didn't know if he was the
Dennis Allen's timeline with Lane Kiffin.
Yes.
He was probably 2 coaches after.
Okay. And so I was wondering if he was filling in for, if that was the next hire after, and then you still had the man with the quick trigger, like, all right, get him out of here too until I find somebody.
So Dennis Allen was here for the 2010 Super Bowl win.
Absolutely.
And then left, and then came back 2015.
Yeah, and he was a head coach, and then they spent the last 6 years. He started as almost like a defensive analyst when he brought him back, because Rex Ryan was Rob Ryan was the defensive coordinator at the time, and when he fired Rob Ryan in the 15 season, he made Allen the interim defensive coordinator. And every year with Allen, or at least that year, I think there was some belief that he might be back in the head coaching pool pretty quick, because they knew that he was 500 his last year in Oakland, which was a win.
Place to
yeah,
win.
Right. I mean, that was kind of a successful run from where they were coming from. And what has been most impressive for me about Allen over the last 6 years since he's been here is that the brand, the face of the New Orleans Saints has changed. Right, where Drew Brees was on the downside, the backside of his career, where he had lost pretty much all of his arm strength. He could only play from 8 to 12 yards from the line of scrimmage. I mean, that was really the only thing that was in play, because he just didn't have the arm to push the ball down the field anymore. So the Saints, while they were always known for their offensive power and their creativity under Payton and Brees, the last 6 years, you've seen kind of the brand start to shift to, where they were last year. They've got a Super Bowl contending defense. I mean, their defense over the last 3 years have been some of the best in the league at times. And if you remember what Allen was taking over, like, they were setting yardage, like, league historical.
Even the worst defensive in NFL history.
In NFL history.
Yes.
Like, by the stats.
Right, and it's not an exaggeration. It was the worst defense of all time.
It was putrid. And, like, they won games with that.
Yeah, that's what Drew Brees
their
was.
offense
they
was
were
so
up
good.
5,000-yard seasons.
Exactly. Their offense was so good that you really don't recall just how bad the defense was at times when he, in between the Allens, in between Allen's first stint and then him coming back in 15, that window was just,
7-9 city.
Absolutely. I mean, and even Drew Brees and Sean Payton couldn't overcome it. But when he got back here, he really stabilized that part of the franchise to where you're almost at this point, you're kind of known as a defensive.
Your identity is defense.
Yeah, your identity as a defensive team. And to say that with Sean Payton on the staff is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's
you know
a
what I
testament
mean?
to what Dennis Allen was able to build. And
Absolutely.
I think that's why everybody that's a New Orleans Saints fan should be pretty much happy with the hire. I know that the reason he hasn't got another shot is what happened in Oakland, but that was, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
And he's obviously grown into, like, his role shouldn't change at all. Like, he'll be the head coach, but he'll still call the defense. Like, I wouldn't imagine that his role changes very much. I would imagine the Saints just become a very defensive-minded team, and if you can go find a quarterback, then you start kind of building on the offense, and whatever happens with Alvin Kamara is going to happen, because it seems like they're kind of staring down the barrel of that one. That was not the news that we thought we would get whenever it said somebody smelled his hair. Turns out he just hit him with the two-piece kind of for no reason.
Right.
How was he when he served as interim for the Bucks Saints game? Did that give any insight?
9-0. I mean, shut out the Bucks.
I mean,
defensive,
his coaching style.
I thought that look, I think what he's able to bring is, to sit shotgun with Sean Payton for as long as he has is a lot like these guys do with Saban, Belichick, that keeps everybody going to that tree and trying to find somebody that will be like them. I don't think anybody expects Allen to be Sean Payton. And I think the good thing that goes for Allen is that he's not an offensive guy, right? So he doesn't have to play into this Sean Payton type pedigree or, the mind, the offensive guy like Payton has been. But you have to learn organization and leadership skills from a guy like Payton, who he's got it in spades. You know, I mean, like, you can hear the media that's covered him. I mean, even for us who are, you know, an hour away and just watch a lot of the media and watch the games, you can tell just how tight and organized that operation is. And that's all Sean Payton, because that's been the consistent over the last 16 years. And Allen's got to take some sense of, you know, I mean, just student-pupil, teacher-pupil type relationship where you're like, man, I'm going to put my personality on this. But I'm not changing that, because that is as good as you can run it. And Allen comes in here and just says, hey, look, we're not going to change a lot. Just put a little new personality on some of the leadership over the top of it. But I'm with you. I think that, you know, this was expected. I think that this was not a surprise. And, you know, I think the Saints are kind of in safe hands.
Yeah, I think it, because you talk about, I mean, culture, we talk a lot about it with LSU, and there wasn't a coach on staff that you could have, like, brought up to be able to be the successor to Ed Orgeron. He doesn't have a coaching tree, per se. So you didn't have really anybody on staff, but with the Saints, it's a little bit different. You want to keep the culture that you built there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, LSU wanted to get rid of the culture that was established. So, like, the Saints are in, like, this is a totally different scenario because of what Sean Payton was able to build and how sustained it was and success. Like, I would imagine if you're Dennis Allen, you walk through the door the exact same way you walked through it before, you know, Sean Payton left. It's like everybody kind of knows their role and everybody's able to buy in because you don't have to change a whole lot. You're just the one at the front of the room now. Like, and you can still be yourself. You don't have anything to prove because your defense proved it for you. They're already all bought in. Like, this shouldn't be a drastic step back in terms of coaching, but what they have on the field is what's going to make the difference. Like,
and they still have a great roster. You know what I mean? Like, that's
the bones of it.
Yeah,
if you can get them out there.
Yeah, and you gotta shore up the quarterback position in the offseason, which I think they all know. But like you said yesterday, the surveillance video has not come out on Alvin Kamara,
but it exists.
But it's out there. And the police said that it corroborates pretty much everything that they were told in the hospital from the cat who sounds like I just got his ass whooped.
Wrong place, wrong time.
I don't know if he said something or if it sounded like he tried to get on the elevator and Kamara just kind of like
get on the elevator.
Yeah, you ain't with us, bro.
Yeah, he was like, you're not coming on this elevator.
Yeah,
I think the guy was kind of like, I'm a fan or something.
What I read, he said, I could whoop your ass, and then that's when Kamara turned around and was like, I don't think so, and kind of hit him. But he was definitely
that's dumb.
Like,
I mean, you know, there's cameras in elevators and everywhere.
It's 5:50 in the morning in Las Vegas, and you're lucky to be, like, I'd say conscious, but that guy wasn't. But I'm saying, like, you're lucky. You don't know where you are, dude. You're just kind of trying to get in the elevator. Kamara knew that guy wasn't with them, though.
Right.
Like, you ain't with the shits, dude. This is our VIP elevator because God knows what we're talking about on here.
True.
Or where we're going.
Where we're going, yeah.
Right.
We not going to our room.
I mean, 5:50, just getting started.
Wait, 5:50 p.m., right? Not a.m.
No, was it in the morning? Because it happened Saturday.
Yes.
It happened prior
to
to
the charges, or the guy didn't levy the charges, I think,
until
after the Pro Bowl.
Let him go play.
He's like, let him go play. Yeah,
That's bizarre.
I want to watch him.
He's really going to whip your ass if you miss the game, bro.
I think you're in trouble now. Incredible that AK just went out there and still balled and had a good time. Yeah. He was like, I got this charge kind of lingering over my head. I wonder, like, they could have arrested him in the stadium.
They could
have made it a whole WWE
absolutely
SmackDown, like, go and get him arrested. Like,
could you imagine Kamara, like, telling all the other players, like, hey, bro?
Yeah, dude, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he looked at DeMario and was like, bro, I'm not going to be here like for long. They're going to come get my ass.
Got a few things.
Well, I mean, there was probably somebody in the elevator with him that was, in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, you would think that another Saint
or
like,
just some AK fucked up last night, man.
They're going to come get him. Let's see if they come get him.
He's going to miss the game.
But yeah, broken orbital bone.
Yeah,
but still able to identify.
He popped him.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the guy that stole our helmet.
Dennis Allen.
Well, yeah.
Welcome to the NFL.
Welcome to NOLA, baby.
Yeah. Your best player is in jail in Las Vegas.
Pitt 6-game suspension on the way.
Right.
No quarterback. Michael Thomas, we have no clue. But thanks for taking the job. Your offensive coordinator.
Can you sign this contract
coach.
real quick?
Yeah, you don't have an offensive
Hurry
coordinator.
up.
All right, remember, Daily, we're brought to you by City Cafe. City Cafe is located on O'Neill and George O'Neill, where good friends meet over 100 years in business. Daily lunch specials and brunch on Sundays. Check them out. CityCafeBR.net. CityCafeBR.net.
Big brunch tomorrow.
Big brunch tomorrow.
Oh, big. dinner, right?
Dinner.
Isn't that the move?
Yeah, tonight.
Oh, it's tonight.
tonight.
Bumped up tonight.
There you go.
Bumped up
Okay.
tonight.
At the good
5:30, so the
table.
grandparents can go.
30.
Can you make it
Big time's in a
early?
rush.
I'm like, yeah, I can make it early. It's
They
like
have
6:15. They're like,
green
ah.
And you can't do
I hate
anything.
to.
You have
I hate to miss
acquiesce.
the 6:30 news. I'm like, 6:30? You want to be
Stop.
home for 6:30?
That's
Wow.
bedtime.
I mean, that's world news. Do we really care about that? Things are so screwed up locally. I mean,
That's
you
what
want to watch
that's
the world
schedule.
news? God,
Jeopardy
sakes.
comes on.
Right.
They don't want to miss
They
that.
can't miss Jeopardy.
That's
Wheel of
amazing.
Big
Fortune.
soap opera. She loves soap operas.
Ooh.
I didn't know that. I mean, the soap
They still
operas.
come on.
Young and the Restless.
That's what I said.
Which
Yes.
one?
It's probably the
Young and
same
the
people.
Big
My
Stephen A.
grandma was a
fan.
big Young
Yeah.
and the Restless fan. So
Unbelievable. I mean, the amount of money the soaps make.
Right.
And it's probably the same people as when
It
we were
is.
little.
It is.
Like
It
watching
is.
our parents
It
watch
is.
it.
I mean, like
wonder
if
if,
you
like,
go
their
visit her
kids-
and and it's on television. I mean, it's the same people like I was watching when she was a kid.
Yeah.
You
know
can,
what I
it's probably
mean?
the same day
It's like,
in the
damn.
life.
She's aged incredibly.
But it's just the same. Yeah, it's just the same channel.
Yeah.
It's just to keep
Right.
running it back.
It is
Yeah.
just a huge, long, like 40-year
commercials.
drama. You know what I mean? Just,
Can we figure this
I
out?
mean, God,
Nothing like stretching out a good drama.
still banging her.
Still,
Damn.
Stefano is still trying to murder
Unbelievable.
Marlena.
Oh, you know.
I once read that Marlena washes her face with her own pee to keep her skin young.
Like Moises Alou.
I have
okay.
no idea if that's true. I seriously doubt it, but I did read that, and it really stuck with me.
Local guy who does basketball training here. I don't know if he would even like this out there, but I mean, if you know the
Too late
local,
now.
you know the local basketball training market, you know what I'm talking about. Drinks his own urine,
Stop right now.
like keeps it in a squirt bottle. You know what I mean? Like,
You're lying.
I'm not.
Why?
I don't know.
What's
How-
You know this.
what
Was
rabbit
this
hole-
allegedly?
Yeah.
What's the science behind this? Like,
I,
need the
guess
science.
it would be
Isn't that like
some type
poisonous?
of flushing. I don't know. I
Like
don't
the
know.
ammonia?
Flushing it back
and
in.
stuff?
I don't know. Leave me alone. I'm just reporting
Oh.
it back.
That's very
Don't you
alleged.
think
Reporting what I
that's
know.
I think
Just
that's
reporting what I
very
know.
alleged.
But get over to City Cafe.
Let's look into this.
For
Speaking
lunch.
of drinking your own pee,
They got
get
well,
to
they
City
got they
Cafe.
got they got great drinks, bottomless mimosas.
What? Wait. So does he have
Sunday
to like
brunch.
bring his pee
I don't
with
know,
him?
We
man.
need to go
I don't
back to
know.
this.
I don't know. I don't know.
You can't just drop something like that
I
out
know.
there and not
That was-
follow
that
up.
was weird. That was
Call
weird.
him.
It's not my basketball trainer, is it?
Can't answer that. Just leave it out in the ether. But I wonder if he like if you go to like a sporting event, he's like I can't drink bottled water.
Well, I mean, you always have something to drink.
That's true.
Yeah,
let me go fill this bottle and fill this thing up.
Right.
Does he
There's
put
no
it on
lines
ice?
at the bar here. You know what I mean?
I wonder if he does yoga.
Do you ice it or keep it warm?
I don't know. Now I'm curious, and I'll ask him the next time I see him.
Man.
It says it's not safe.
Patrick
It can't
Henry's science
be.
says if you throw up constantly, you stay.
Well, we know that.
all right.
Lloyd knows all about that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a tried and true method, dude.
Brian Burgess, I wish City Cafe still had their bottomless champagne during brunch.
They
Well,
not?
you said they did.
Maybe some
Bottomless
false
mimosas?
advertising. Yeah, I said bottomless mimosas.
Are you? Is that alleged too?
No, that is
Fake
not
news
so much.
alleged.
Culotta.
I mean,
I mean, the Italian Hall of Fame's gonna come knocking on this door.
Get that award?
It's all a sham.
Yeah, celebrated with the family tonight. What do you mean?
Drinking your own piss on TV.
Did you see the tight end from Notre Dame? This might be
Drinks his own pee?
LSU. No. He's a player and he's in the transfer portal. I mean, this is the guy that LSU's got to get now, right? I mean, they need a tight end. George Takakis, Takacs,
What's happened?
Takacs,
there's no other A, right?
Okay, yes, you're right.
Takacs or-
Takacs.
What even kind of last name? Is
I
that
don't
Greek?
know.
I think it's Greek,
Is that a Greek?
right? It kinda
Garoppolo's
seems-
Greek.
Yes.
George Takacs announces that he is transferring from Notre Dame. He's a fifth year going into his fifth season. And
We lost video. We lost
okay,
video. What's happened? What's happened?
okay.
Okay, hold on. Let's go to break real quick. Let's go to
All right, we'll
break.
be right back here on the Jordy Culotta Show,
happening.
driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.
Okay.
Papa Earls, the fine spice, originating right down here in South Louisiana by our guy Mark Pop Norman. Developed it back in 2018 and won Amazon's Newcomer of the Year in 2019. They pride themselves in having 30% less salt and sodium than the leading brands at the same price point. You can find them locally. Look for Papa Earls at Rouse's, Calandro's, Mathern's, High Neighbor, and more.
All right, Lloyd tried to screw it up.
I got close.
He was as close as he's ever been. I know that's his method every day.
That's right. I like to live on the edge.
That's right. Takacs finished his Irish career. This sounds like an LSU tight end. 8 career catches, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, including one in the regular season finale versus Stanford. 6'6". He was the number 11 tight end in the recruiting class for 2018. So we will not too many good stats to fall on. He does have 2 years of eligibility left. COVID season coming in help here for LSU. They need a tight end desperately, just as far as the numbers go. It'd have been great if it'd be great to find a high end tight end. Somebody that could come in and play immediately that's made an impact. But maybe Takacs is the guy. But his stats are not somebody who says he's a game-breaking tight end. But as we said, LSU just needs the numbers, man.
That's what I was about to say. What's the big deal about him?
No big deal.
No
He's
big deal.
just a player.
Okay.
Yeah, LSU needs a warm body.
Yeah,
Okay.
he plays the position that they got to have.
Okay.
And, look, it's not official that he's coming to LSU, but
No,
it is.
not even close.
I know we've already got
Allegedly.
him starting against.
Allegedly.
We've already got him starting against Florida
We
State.
really do.
I don't even think that he's. I don't even know if he's made a list yet. If LSU's on it, but you would imagine that Brian Kelly has some type of in here. Brian Polian on getting into the conversation, at least on this, because of LSU's desperate need until tight end. Look, I've seen some reports that he might wait until spring is over.
Well, have you seen this guy? I mean, he's a hard body. Like, I'm sure he's got some making up to do in Notre Dame before he gets out of
A
town.
little spring breaking.
Yeah, he's got to take advantage.
Yeah, right. Up to the lake.
Yeah, he's got to go.
I wonder where Notre Dame goes for spring break. Like one of the
Somewhere
Great
warm.
Lakes.
Oh, yeah, I bet they do.
I mean, is it warm by then?
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
know.
I've never
No,
been up there.
I don't know if it is.
It's not even that warm here by then, so.
But we
Yeah.
do have a little in. Look at him.
Oh, he's cute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, him
Real
and BK,
cute.
so they're obviously on
Yeah.
good terms. I think he
Yeah.
left because Marcus Freeman, during the recruiting cycle, is bringing in 2. I mean, Notre Dame has like 15 tight ends.
Sweet.
But he brought in 2 more, and he was like, these are the guys. And he was like, all right, well, fuck it, I guess I'll go. Like, he was pretty much shown the door by Marcus Freeman, so he's like, all right, I'll hit the portal. So
Yeah.
seems
Wow.
like he's got an open mind.
Come down to the SEC, George.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't clean up down
Yeah,
there.
for sure. Absolutely.
You'll love
May
it.
not catch a lot of passes, George, but you'll have a hell of a time. But so LSU's could be in the market for a much needed tight end if Takacs is going to announce LSU. As we said, we were going to talk to Brody Miller. We already talked to Brody Miller at 8 a.m. this morning. We'll get a recap on the recruiting season, the coaching hires, what he expects in spring from LSU. We'll also ask him about a Burrow article that he wrote up, which is fantastic, giving some Burrow stories. Is that Takacs?
That's Takacs
Wait,
with the
what?
flow, dude. He grew his hair out.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the
Gee,
move.
Does he have a
Wow.
sports bra on?
No, it's,
No,
it's
it's like
catapult. It's
No, that's one of
measured,
those.
It's like a
science.
tracker.
Yeah.
But he could. He's got a big enough
It
chest
looks
for
like
it.
Yeah,
it.
right.
Yeah,
I'm sure he could pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing it right now.
Yeah.
Pretty hot,
Yeah.
I would
Good looking
say.
guy.
Doesn't look like the guy that was standing next to BK at all.
Doesn't.
No,
That guy
I'm
was
telling you,
cute.
college
This
will
guy's
wear you.
hot.
Strength and
Yeah,
conditioning
right.
programs,
Yeah.
bro.
That's right. Still the NIL money
We
floating
just went from
around.
4 p.m. to 2 a.m. real quick.
6 to midnight.
So we're going to talk more LSU football coming up here with Brody Miller at 8 o'clock this morning. If you've got a question specifically about the Tigers going into spring that you're curious about, hashtag Ask Brody. We'll make sure and Ask Miller coming up here at 8 o'clock this morning. But like we said, everything's on the table. Coaching hires, recruiting season, roster management, transfer portal, all of that we'll talk to Brody about coming up here. We're also going to talk to him about Joe Burrow. It is Super Bowl week. If you saw it yesterday, they kicked it off with some media availability, and Odell Beckham Jr. was sat down for his media, I guess.
Responsibilities.
Yeah, right. What do you call it? Gaggle with all the media members, and they were doing it via Zoom. And Jarvis Landry somehow got the link and was able to pop into the Zoom. And you could see Odell as soon as he started talking. He was like, "I know that voice."
Uh-huh.
And then a couple of words later, he's like, "Oh wow, that's my guy. That's Juice. That's Jarvis Landry who had popped in." It was a pretty cool moment for Landry being able to congratulate Odell publicly and kind of show his support for him and see the relationship that those two guys have, man. And speaking of that relationship really started at an LSU football camp way back like in 2009 when those guys were sophomores in high school. And the stories are great, man. Like, they were competitive towards one another. They were, kind of going at each other's neck at the football camp because Landry was considered the top underclassman in the state of Louisiana. I mean, the tales of Jarvis Landry growing up. I remember hearing about Jarvis Landry when he was like in 9th grade and people being like, nobody is ready for the type of mentality that this kid has already, that he is going to bring somewhere, and he's going to change programs. He's going to change, franchises in the way that he thinks and plays. And people have been talking about, Jarvis like that since he was a kid. In fact, Frank Wilson tells us a great story about when Jarvis was at LSU's football camp as a junior and Tyrann Mathieu as a sophomore. And every time Jarvis Landry would get up to a drill, Tyrann Mathieu would be elbowing his way up to the front and be getting on the field and trying to go one-on-one with him. And not a lot of people knew who Tyrann was. Frank Wilson did, because Frank went to St. Aug in New Orleans, and Tyrann was at St. Aug, and everybody down there was like, this kid is amazing, bro. Just how small and how impactful he is. And, like Mathieu was like getting in Jarvis's face, like not so much in his face, but just telling him, every time you go, I'm going. and nobody was kind of, everybody was kind of scared of Jarvis. Everybody was like intimidated by him. And he had this kid a year younger than him barking at him the whole time, trying to get at him. But during those same drills, Odell Beckham Jr. was there, right? And Jarvis was kind of the guy. And Odell wanted to be the dude. And those two were going at each other and competing with one another. And the tales of some of those stories coming off of the LSU football camp fields before they were even there. We all know about the practice field stories that have now surfaced in the NFL, and they're now legendary. The practice film at LSU where they're both making the one-handed catches over DBU. I mean, like, they had some cats on those teams. I mean, that's Mo Claiborne and Brandon Taylor and
Patrick Peterson running around
Harold Simon.
Yes.
And I mean, like, they got some dogs running around out there, and Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry are just picking the ball out of the air in practice. And
have you seen any of those practice? Like, are you privy to those highlights? I've seen some of them that
Yeah.
like have come on the internet, but I feel like there's just
there's
gobs of tape.
there's a, if you can get into kind of LSU's Huddle account deal, there's like a highlight reel that you can watch of practice, and a lot of those plays are like all those dudes, like Mathieu and Peterson and Odell and Jarvis and Leonard and all the dogs. You know what I mean? Devin White. There's a move of Devin White and Darius Geis where Geis catches like an out route, and he shakes Devin. It's just him and Devin White in the open field.
I've seen this.
And
Geis, he shakes him and he like spins.
And Geis like shakes him, like they're in a phone booth. They're in 3 feet of one another, and they can't, Devin White's trying to get Geis, and Geis is trying to get away from White. And Geis shakes him up and then, like, spins away from him. And it's one of the most impressive one-on-one highlights you've ever seen in football. I mean, and it happens on LSU's practice field. It just gives you an idea of the stuff that it's happened out there with the type of guys that they've had come through there. But Odell and Jarvis really kind of brought the cachet to it. I mean, more than anything, I thought it became cool to be an LSU alumnus when Jarvis and Odell really hit the scene. Like, people were like, wow, these cats they're cool. I mean, they're relatable. Everybody likes them. I mean, the hairstyle that Odell it got so popular that he was like, I got to shave. I got to cut my hair. You know what I mean?
Like, I can't be the one anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's like, this is too much. This thing's like wildfire. And it's cool to see that relationship one-on-one, like it was on display yesterday, of those guys kind of supporting each other, because it's, that was really forged by fire. Like, that really, for as much love, and you can tell, I mean, that stuff is real now. I mean, they really genuinely feel almost together, like brothers.
They were together on the draft. Like, Odell went to his draft day after
he's
he
got his arm around his shoulder.
He was the first one he hugged.
Yeah. But it is cool to see that stuff up close and pulling for, for as much as we talk about Burrow and we talk about Chase and we talk about the Bengals, you forget Whitworth's 40. playing in his second Super Bowl, and Odell's making his Super Bowl debut. So there's cool storylines on both sides from an LSU perspective when you just look at this game going into it.
Did you see the Joe Burrow, Andrew Whitworth story that he dropped during a little nuggets coming out of Super Bowl media day? It's been nice, but Joe Burrow said that during his rehab for his ACL, Whitworth was also there, and he didn't really know anybody. He was in California. He's like, I don't really know anybody out here.
He was there at rehab when he was
Yes,
there?
and so Whitworth was there also, and they were both LSU guys. So he ended up spending a good amount of time with Andrew Whitworth, and he spent his birthday at Andrew Whitworth's house. Like they would watch
Really?
football together,
Wow.
watch tape together, and actually formed like a little relationship. So
That's cool.
LSU's
That's cool.
everywhere for the
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
Well,
Yeah,
and
they
there's
are.
a lot of love in Cincinnati for Andrew Whitworth. I think we were talking to Coach Burrow last week. You know, Burrow's being from that area, so they knew who Whitworth was. I mean, he was one of the faces of that franchise for so long in the days that he spent there, and then he became a free agent, and by all accounts, he wanted to stay in Cincinnati. And it wasn't cool to stay in Cincinnati then. I mean, there was no Joe Burrow there. I mean, there was
There
no
was
Burrow
nothing
on the
there.
horizon. And Whitworth had really kind of endeared himself to that part of the country and that city and that franchise. And he didn't want to move his family. He's got a big family, and everybody was kind of established and going to school. And, you know, you kind of had your routine set in place. And if he had the option, he wanted to stay, but it didn't work out. And he goes to the Rams, and they end up moving to L.A., and he's really kind of the face, I think, of the early part of the L.A. Rams. It feels like Andrew Whitworth has kind of been their mainstay
Stalwart.
captain. Yeah, like the guy that they've counted on, kind of the guy that they've looked to for leadership in that locker room. And now he's getting the ability to play a Super Bowl. I mean, we saw Big Whit out there for the UCLA game, and you forget, dude, just how massive that dude is.
How tall is he?
6'8",
Jeez.
300 pounds, and moves like a point guard.
6'8",
Like
330.
when he got to LSU in a recruiting class that was mesmerized. I mean, pull up his recruiting class, Stewie. I believe he's 03. Or no, excuse, I think he's 02 because he was on the national championship team. He was on the 03 national championship team. And he played tight end at West Monroe. Like he was as a youngster. Now they moved him to offensive line like he was a junior and senior, but like as a sophomore, he was so big. And to play it at West Monroe as a sophomore is like playing in the NFL as a rookie. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, like you have to, like, you know, there's not too many Jamar Chases in the world. You know what I mean? That could step onto an NFL stage in the first year and dominate competition. It's like going to West Monroe as a sophomore and thinking, I'm going to show up and play. You know what I mean? Well,
Nobody does.
yeah, because, I mean, there's 2,000 kids in the school, and all of the males play football. I mean, when they get off the bus, you're already beat. People are like, oh, my God. There's 120 kids here. You know what I mean?
And they're
Like,
recruiting Brady
yeah,
James.
I
Come
mean,
on
they're
over.
just walking in a single file line down the side of the field. You're like, it never stops. Like ants.
Yeah.
It never stops.
And they're all 6'6", 310 pounds.
You
He
got
was
his class?
of 01.
01.
He
Was
was
that's
in the-
Michael Clayton,
Michael
Marcus
Clayton,
Spears,
Joseph Adai.
Marquis Hill.
Marquis Hill, Ben Wilkerson.
Go.
I mean,
That's
keep
what-
going down the list. Who else was in that class? Joseph Adai, Ben Wilkerson, Michael Clayton, Marquis Hill, Marcus Spears, Andrew Whitworth. I mean, bro.
I got to be the best person alive.
I mean, it's
Best recruiting class of all
unbelievable.
time.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you win national championships. That was Nick Saban's, first recruiting class? Like his first full recruiting
Yes.
class in Louisiana?
Yes.
Marquis
was?
Hill was the
That's
highest
cool.
rated in
Yeah.
the class.
Marquis Hill was a dog, man. I mean, he was a wrecker. Rest in peace, Marquis Hill.
Where did he come from?
De La Salle in New Orleans.
Dealing so.
Hayden Paris. Slade Bolden started as a sophomore.
Oh,
It's different now,
God.
Hayden. Get the hell out of
Slade.
here. Slade.
I can't wait to see him run the 40.
Slade will be selling insurance in Monroe in 3 years.
Speaking of Dylan Sell,
Yeah, that's right.
he's going to go on. What's your boy that won a natty for Alabama, the quarterback that sells? Oh, Coker.
Yeah,
Him
Jacob
and Coker
Coker.
are going to put a little agency together.
That should be Lane Kiffin's lead page on his resume.
Or Blake
I
Sims.
won a national championship with Jacob Coker.
the insurance guy.
Hire me. Daily, we're brought to you by Falaya Real Estate, online at falaya.com. Get in touch with Barrett Blondo, our friend over at Falaya Real Estate. Easiest way to do that is by downloading the app. Download the application inside your Apple and Android stores, and you can keep up with all the featured properties that they have. You can get exposure on Zillow, MLS, Realtor.com, and more. Sell your home like a pro with the pros over at Falaya.com. Make sure you're following them on social media. Their podcasts that they're putting out have been fantastic. I listened to Spence Maxey the other night, who has been in home inspection for 20 years. And Blondo and Maxey, who are childhood friends, sat down and talked about the real estate market, about Baton Rouge's construction evolution over the last 20. It is really cool conversation. You learn, if you're looking for a house, if you're in the market, if you're looking to buy or sell, you can learn something in these conversations that Blondo is having week in, week out with people in and around the industry. It's really cool, man. Check them out, Falaya.com. You get maximum exposure on all the websites. It's a low fixed cost, seamless scheduling, document management. All of that is what you get when you link up with Falaya. Falaya.com is where you can find them online. And we just got a text in from our good friend over at Fred's, Jason Nay. We're putting together our Super Bowl squares again.
Let's go.
And Nay and Fred's, the Moose, is in for a $50 bar tab to throw into the winnings of our squares. So we got merchandise. We got our friends over at GoFlow who will step up and help us
That's
out.
what you really want.
We got Fred's. We got Good Eats.
Good Eats
with
is
Sean
come through.
Courtney.
Let's put a little squeeze on him right now.
Yeah, we
So,
are. Sean,
yeah.
you're in.
Sean's in.
I know. Little does he know.
Ever since you're in.
That's right. Galen, you're in.
Does GoFlow know they're in?
No, but they're in.
Okay.
They're in.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't know, but they're
Yeah, Caroline
They'll
and
be
Brett are
fine.
in. Yeah,
They'll
they
be
love
fine.
it, man.
That's a good prize package.
It is. So we will be putting out the Super Bowl squares. I think we're going to do it digitally this year. You know, in the true Jordy Culotta Show fashion, we have talked about this behind the scenes, but no decision has been made. So we're just going to try and hash this thing out.
I think we're
on
there.
on the live pod. I think that we go digital, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the easiest.
Don't be surprised if you see us manually
Yeah.
run against squares on Sunday.
I think
but yeah,
people
digital,
need
I think we
to
can do it.
email me and tell me that they want in, and then I send them an invite to
I just
the
think from the digital
square.
standpoint, it's much easier to choose the square, which it always really
No,
kind
no,
of
but I
comes
have to
down
let them in. Like I have to like.
Oh, if you have access, you have
Yeah, I
to
have
pay
to like
first to
send
play.
them an invite to get into the.
We'll try it. We'll see if it works, and if it doesn't,
grid.
we'll try again next year. No refunds.
sticks.
Hayden Paris, I'd get all my policies from Bolden Coker Insurance. Yeah, you would, Hayden. Jeffrey Bones, Slade Bolden going to come back to West Monroe and work at the Duck Commander. Pretty good gig. Brian Burgess, how do you buy a square? We're still figuring that
Well,
out,
that's why I
Brian.
said
Chill out with the
that.
questions,
well,
for God's
no,
sake.
you put it out there so people are going to be like,
I
how
know.
do I do this?
I know. All right, we'll have some more information.
I
for
think
you.
I think y'all email me and I invite y'all into the pool. Honestly, like
Yeah.
y'all get an invitation.
Yeah, but you
So
have to be able to get into the. You have to pay first, right? We got to do the.
y'all will
like
Venmo us. Yes,
Venmo,
but how much is the square?
Lloyd Dash Courtney,
$5.
$5.
Is that too much?
Might be too little.
Oh.
little.
I think
I
it's
don't
like.
know.
I think
Is that
so.
normal?
Never mind. Reverse. Get me out of here. Get me out of
Someone
here.
help us
me out of
figure
here.
this out.
I think I played like $20 a square, but that might be
Yeah.
one board if we go multiple boards.
Well, there's 100 squares on the grid.
I don't know.
Do we stop at 100 squares?
Dr. Chad Spillers, I'll do bleach trays for squares teeth whitening.
Ooh, yeah,
I'm in on
Chad.
that. Let's go. Now I'm
Telling
gonna
you,
play.
$10
There
a
you
square.
go. Yeah,
$10 a
yeah,
square.
it just
Yeah,
went
yeah,
up.
yeah.
It
You know
just
what?
went up.
$15 a square with the new entry there from Dr. Chad Spillers over at Jawsaw and Spillers. What else we got?
Little Botox, maybe.
Text in. Jeffrey Bone, R.I.P. Marquis Hill. He was a great guy. He was a great dude. He was a phenomenal dude. I'll never forget Marquis Hill. One morning, I took Brandon Bass. At the time, I was working with John Brady on the LSU basketball staff, and it was actually Matuk's brother-in-law. Andrew Simon was a kid at Our Lady of Mercy, and you had to do a one-page biography report on somebody that was living and alive that was out there, and he did his on Brandon Bass. And Andy Simon, Andrew's dad, called me and asked me if I could bring Brandon Bass to Our Lady of
automatic
Mercy
A.
while he was giving the report. Like, we were going to time it up, and I still have the pictures of it. And it was like when Bass turns the corner and walks into the classroom, dude. These kids are like, I mean, it was like the Jolly Green Giant walking into the. I mean, like, you know, he's 6'9". You know what I mean? Like he like turns. He's got to duck his head to get into the doorway. And I mean, they just start screaming. And like this is like 2000, and this is early. Like I mean, like there's no social media. Like you're not like posting it to Twitter or anything. But we did have a video crew come
handheld
with us.
camera,
Yes,
dude.
it was a handheld camera,
Cam.
like on the shoulder.
On the string.
You know what I mean? Like walking them in.
It'd be a
And
dunk
we went back
contest.
to the locker room and we showed, like, Brady was in there, like some of the coaches were in there, and Bass was like getting his ankles taped, and Marquis Hill walked in, and like you could like the replaying of the kids' energy was like it was overwhelming. Like everybody in the room was like, "Wow, look how cool! Wow!" And Marquis Hill pulled me aside. Because Brandon Bass was like, because people were like, how did this happen? What happened? And he was like, one of Jordy's friends called and asked him, and we just went, and it just worked out. It was just perfect. And Marquis Hill, everybody kind of cleared the room, and Marquis Hill pulled me aside and was like, hey, man, I want to do that. I want to go to the school. Take me to the school. And I was like, okay. And I was like, at the time, I was like, I don't know who to call.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, dude. And I was coaching basketball at U High. Like the 8th grade team. And so I just called the AD and was like, hey man, Marquis Hill, and like Marquis Hill was Marquis Hill. Like he was the dude at this point. And I was like, I brought Brandon Bass up to, a friend of mine's school yesterday and just kind of did the friend a favor, and it worked out and people loved it. The kids loved it and everything. And Marquis Hill's now telling me that he wants to come around and like see the school kids. Like, man, maybe we can bring him in, like he can read a book, or something like that. And he was like, yeah, that sounds great. I'll put him with like some first graders or kindergartners, some young kids, and let him go read to them. And this was like around Christmas, and we set it up. And the guy told me at the end of the year, Marquis Hill came every single week and read to the class.
He loved it.
And he loved it. And like never, like, this is the day where it wasn't in the paper, it wasn't on social media, it wasn't on the deal. And I remember that guy telling me that, and that sticking with me, and me being like, damn, dude, Marquis Hill's a really good dude. You know what I mean? I didn't know him at the time, but just like for somebody to take the time, commit to that. If he would have just did it once time, it would have been cool. You know what I mean? Like he went every single week back to that classroom and back to those kids, and I'd imagine it had probably a bigger impact on him than it had on them. You know, I mean, like for him to go in there.
Oh, we had to get so much, I guess, joy out of it. He's like, dude, I can't wait to do that again. Because I couldn't imagine being in that position where it's like you light up a room every time you walk in. It's like, yeah, I'd do this for the kids if I got the time. And you mentioned like it's before social media. That makes it almost harder for him to be able to do it. Like, who do I get in touch with? How do I call somebody? Who do I reach out to? And it's like you went through all the steps to be able to do that just because he wanted to make the kids happy.
Wow, John Quav, 2001 class, Marquis Hill, Ben Wilkerson, Michael Clayton, Andrew Whitworth, Joseph Adai, Marcus Spears, Travis Daniels, Benny Brazil was in that class too. Benny's still on the coaching staff with the track team.
Could fly.
Could fly. Still could fly.
Oh, I bet.
Still can
LSU
fly.
track team?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, he's the assistant coach. All right, good stuff. I love going down. Those teams were fantastic. Those are good trips down memory lane. Dude.
Yeah,
That 2000, 2001, 2002, 03 teams are some of the just
we're in the
best,
shit now.
bro.
Like,
I
this
mean,
is what
like,
it's supposed to
we'll
look
play
like.
anywhere, anybody, anytime.
Give me Jason White. I
I
can't wait to
Dominic
see this game.
Davis,
Yeah.
LeBrandon Tofield.
I still remember when LeBrandon Tofield. It was like probably like 3 a.m. I was watching SportsCenter as kids do.
Yeah.
And it came across the ticker like LeBrandon Tofield tore an ACL when it was at LSU, and I was like,
Illinois?
it just hit me right in
Illinois game.
like right in the
Sugar
gut.
Bowl. I'll never forget. Like that's when we were in college. Were those teams? Like young college. I mean, I stayed in college for 7 years.
Yeah.
I was in with Tofield and Dorsey. You know what I mean? Right. But so I mean, like young in the college career, and this was like when you would go out and come home back from the bar, and it'd be like 2:30 in the morning, and they would be replaying the primetime game.
God, the best.
And we would sit up and like
5 in the morning.
tap the keg, boys.
They're still going.
Party just started.
Oh.
And you would watch those games back, and those were the games like they would like trim them down for TV. They had to keep them like in the 2-hour window.
They would cut to
so
the guy.
they take the crappy drives out, and they would really just kind of be like all the
games,
action.
yes.
You know what I mean? And you'd sit there, and it would almost be like you'd be watching it again. Like Tofield would be running kids over in the open field. Dominic Davis was a dog. Rohan was a dog. I mean, Rohan was the dude. man. Back then, everybody get your motherfucking Rohan.
Then they would have the guy in the
Is
booth
that what
for
people
those.
said?
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Oh, that's
I
so
picked up a
cute.
date for my. I picked up a date my freshman year, which was, I mean, it was like 2001. So it was my sophomore year, 2001, and Rohan had just been named the starter of, like, he had just taken over Booty's spot, and we went and picked her up. It was like a crew of us. We were like all falling out of this Ford Bronco in the back of it. You know, I'm like,
That's
pass
romantic.
by. We got to go get the girl. I got to go get the date. You know, like, take a right, you know, from the back.
Little box run.
Yeah, right. And she like shows up, and you know, like like dudes are just like dripping out of this Ford Bronco. You know, I'm like, that's our ride. You know what I mean?
Get in.
And she had a sign rolled up, and she opened it up like this, and it said, "Everybody get your motherfucking Rohan." And I look back, and I think I'm in love.
The one.
Right? I was like, I love this chick. And I mean, like the whole time, bro, we're just.
Oh, that's awesome. We need to get shirts made
It
like
was-
that for his
yes.
new show that say
Yes,
that.
it
That would
was
be
awesome.
great.
That's awesome. Where's
Chad
she now?
Lavallee was a beast. It's a good question. I don't know. It's cool. She was
Let's find
cool, man. You know what I mean? Like, she was down for the cause. Randy Lanois, Corey Webster, Marcus Spears. Randy Lanois actually coached Corey Webster as a kid.
Really?
Yes, he was his childhood coach, and Lanois still has that coach relationship with Webster. When Webster walks in the room and sees Randy, you can tell him, like, he straightens his shoulders up and like, yes sir, no sir. But Webster was one of those guys. Webster was the last signee of the 2000 class. Saban had much like a window, like Brian Kelly just had, where he got on the job late in the process. You know, it was really just about saving the class. Like, you don't have to make waves, man. Just save what you got. And Corey Webster was a guy that was overlooked by Jerry DiNardo because I think Webster was on the basketball
he was a
recruiting market
basketball
too. He was a big-time basketball recruit. And then Saban drove down to St. James and offered him. He was another one that was like the last scholarship given in a class. Corey Webster was.
What a scholarship.
Huh?
What a
Turns
scholarship.
out to
Such
be
a
a
big
second-round pick
pick.
in a lockdown corner. Got picked off a pass in the natty.
And in the NFC
mean,
Championship.
Yeah,
That picture we
Brett
have-
Favre.
Of Brett Favre.
Ended Brett Favre's career in
in
Green
Lambeau.
Bay.
The picture we have in the
Yeah,
watch room,
that's
of
Georgia.
him- Georgia, the tipped interception.
tips it to
that,
himself.
That interception is like, to me, that's like the start of DBU. Like,
Absolutely.
Corey Webster was the
Yeah,
forefather of
Travis
DBU.
Daniels and Corey Webster to me feel like the presidents of DBU, and Webster more than Daniels like the vice president, and Corey Webster, because that was really where, I mean, just think about the DBs that came in after that. LaRon was right after that. Jesse Daniels was right after that. Ronnie Prude was right after that. I mean, they were just
and
like,
then you got
I
some
mean, you were
white
just
boys,
like
you got Jack
pro,
Hunt and Stelts in there.
but pros,
Pros.
pro after pro after pro, and it was just like,
Churning them out.
I mean, dudes,
Factory.
like, I mean, that was the LSU heyday, bro.
I mean, you talk about it being impressive to play at West Monroe as a freshman or sophomore. LaRon coming in as a freshman and just starting on the LSU defense.
Yeah.
He's like, Nick Saban's like, this guy has to play.
Skylar Green.
Oh, that
What
you
class
talk
was he,
about
02?
Georgia.
Because he was in the next class. I think he was a sophomore when he scored that touchdown
That's
against
what he said.
Oklahoma.
All these
Yeah,
were
he
Nick's
was 02,
gets.
class of 02.
02? Yeah, Nick. This is when Nick was just, I mean,
He was on
flexing on kids. Like, people were like, I think we have the best coach in the country.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, people were like looking around
think
like,
you did.
I think LSU has the best coach in football.
Where did they come
You know
from?
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this guy is amazing. And he was like calling out LSU, calling out Baton Rouge. I remember somebody
What
was
do you
like,
mean?
somebody at a press conference was like, Coach, what are you going to do if you miss this guy? You know, like, and they were like, he was like, everybody around here needs to chill out, man. He was like, he called it, so what did he call it? He goes, everybody around here has the Brook Trout syndrome. And everybody's like, he's like, does anybody know what a Brook Trout is? Everybody in the room's like, he's like, none of you guys are from the Midwest? And we're like,
Hell no.
no, we're all Southern, Coach. And he's like, up there we catch fish called Brook Trout. And when they know they're going to get caught, their eyes get real wide. They get scared. They get real intimidated. He's like, that's what y'all all are down here, all intimidated and scared, waiting for the shoe to drop, waiting for the bad story to come. He's like, it's a new day here at LSU. And everybody's like, oh, my God.
Would love
Like,
it.
look at this guy. He's like, it's a new day here. If we miss this guy, we're just going to get the next best guy. And we're going to bring him in, develop him, and make him a pro. You're like, holy shit. Who is this guy? You know what I mean? And the next thing you know, LSU is the best program in the – and he was so good. He was so good that his culture – and I think that you're about to see that with Sean Payton even more because they have his people in place. he was so good that you could bring an outsider like Les Miles in who had no idea the Cadillac, the Rolls Royce, the
keys he just got.
high performance machine that he had just gotten the keys to, that he was able to, the culture was so good and the players were so elite that they were able to cover up how dumb he was for 3 years. Really, I mean, like, there's a tale of Kyle Williams stepping up in the 2005 locker room at Alabama where Jamarcus hits Dwayne Bowe.
Puts one through him.
In overtime, throws a dart right through him. I mean, puts him in Dwayne Bowe catches it like this. He pins it against his, he doesn't catch it like that. He pins it against his shoulder pads. It's coming in so hot. And at the halftime of that game, like, Miles is like, bumbling through some stupid ass sentence, and Kyle Williams like steps up and is like, "Sit down. We know what to do." Everybody in here, he like looks at like Hester and like the dudes that have been there. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, we know. Looked at Jamarcus, all the guys that are like recruited by Saban, Joe Adai, like all the dogs, and like, sit down, shut up. Everybody knows what to do, right? Let's take this game over. Just do what we got to do. And like, I mean, they had Alabama had no business playing with LSU that day. No. They're in overtime, but I mean, the culture was so good that, I mean, they were able to maintain and like, overcome the dumbass. You know what I mean? Like, really and truly, I mean, it was amazing how good LSU was back then.
And how sustainable it was even with them gone. And now you see where Nick Saban's infatuation with Louisiana comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had those recruiting classes. Like, I know where all these guys are. I'm just going to go pick around Louisiana.
And the thing that Saban would tell people that were close to him, and even there's, people close to him up there that still tell newbies coming in, like, hey, man, Saban used to look for, he loved this about Louisiana kids. Like, if there's a Louisiana kid on the board and there's an out-of-state kid on the board, Saban's going to take the Louisiana kid on the board every single time because of his mentality. And that's what Saban says you can't really find anywhere else. Maybe Georgia. Georgia is very comparable to Louisiana in recruiting as far
Florida.
As you could. Look at the mentality of the Florida kids. You know what I mean? They're a little bit more DB wide receiver, where LSU, Louisiana, and Georgia are a little bit more defensive line linebacker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where they got that dog, that Devin White. They got that Glenn Dorsey. They got the
Tre'Davious White.
Absolutely. The dogs, the guys that when
I'm getting the fuck off Cooper Road.
They've been telling them their whole life, you're no good. You can't do it. You can't make it. You're not going to do it. And you put them on a field, and they can run, jump quicker than everybody. And you give them good coaching, and then they're just like, boom.
Yeah, then they'll take the tongue out your mouth.
They're a first-round pick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just like, who the fuck is Mo Claiborne? You know what I mean? Like, where did that guy come from?
They're old Simon.
Yeah, all of them. I mean, it's just, it's a different type of player.
When Nick was here, was Alabama good?
Hell no.
They weren't.
No, they were nothing.
They didn't get good.
The first time LSU beat Alabama in Tiger Stadium, I want to say it was 32 years. Check me on that, Stewie. 2000. Was Nick Saban. Yeah, like that was like the Brooke Trout thing. People were like, how are you going to beat Alabama? It's like, we're going to prepare and kick their ass. That's what we're going to do. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, everybody just chill out. Quit being so scared of success down here. I thought that more than anything, he was like, it's okay to be good. I think a lot of people around LSU's football program was like, I don't know if we really want to be good. Then we're going to have to continue to be good. And Saban was like, either embrace it or get run over.
Well, who was LSU's rival then when Saban was here?
Auburn.
Okay.
The games against Auburn were great when Saban was here.
Oh, that's when they stomped on the eye.
Stomped on the eye. They the guy jumped over to Ronnie Prude, jumping over the guy's back. They had the Cadillac Williams, the Ronnie Brown guy. They had the Michael Clayton popping the dude on the opening kickoff.
Yes. Onside kick to start the game.
The 8 p.m. 2001, 9/11 makeup game. They were supposed to play Auburn on 9/11, or the weekend of 9/11, and they moved that game to December 1st at the end of the year, and it meant who was going to the SEC championship.
8 o'clock
and they
night.
kicked it off at 8 o'clock at night. It was pitch black dark outside. People were drinking all day.
Heavy bourbon.
All day. And that place was a zoo, bro. I mean, people were swinging from the lights. And on the opening kickoff, Saban kicks an onside kick, and Michael Clayton decleats somebody. I mean, like, puts his crown of his helmet in somebody's chin, puts him on the ground. LSU recovers it, and it was ball game. Chad Lavallee was like, it was over. It was one of the finest games I'd ever been to in Tiger Stadium.
Didn't Tommy Tuberville send his team out and they stomped on the eye of the Tiger? Isn't that why Nick decided to onside kick it? Then they have the video of Tommy Tuberville on the sidelines putting his hands up. He's like, how did that just happen? Because they got a 15-yard penalty, so Nick Saban decided to onside kick it.
That's right.
And he was like, we're going to get good field position. Like, we're not giving up that much in field position because of the penalty. So the first decision Tommy Tuberville made, like for Auburn, was like, we're going to, assert dominance, go stomp on the middle of the field, get 15-yard penalty, whatever. Nick Saban's like, well, fuck it, we'll onside kick it. They get the ball back, route game.
The game versus Auburn this year is the first time they've won in Tiger Stadium since 1999.
Yeah.
That 2001 game that we're talking about started the losing streak at
crazy.
LSU Auburn. I mean, that was the beginning
run.
of the run. I mean, that was the beginning of just flexing on
So
people.
that was
man.
like, when did Saban get here? 2000?
2000. He got here right at the end of 99.
Okay,
2000
so yeah,
was
I
his
guess
first
I do
year.
remember because Mississippi State was beating Alabama then,
Yeah.
so Alabama was not good. But wasn't Tennessee good? Too
Tennessee was at
around
the top
then?
of the
Yeah.
mountain. But if you remember,
Yeah.
LSU rushed the field in 2000 when they beat Tennessee. That's when LeBrandon Tofield
Oh.
took that long one down the sideline. And, I mean, the week before,
Fulmer.
LSU got beat by UAB. UAB
The week before the
beat 'em.
Tennessee game?
Josh Booty, they went into overtime.
The Dragons.
And Josh Booty
Blazers.
threw a pick 6, and the guy ran it back, and they got beat. And the entire week, people were like kind of falling off
They were calling for Saban's
of the
head.
I bet
Saban
they were.
of the Saban train. This is like 4 games in to his run at LSU. And on Wednesday or Tuesday that week, he announces that Rohan's starting. He benches Josh Booty and goes for Rowe. And that Saturday is when I picked the girl up, and she had the sign.
It all comes full circle.
It did come full
yes, it
circle.
all comes
That's
full circle.
amazing.
It was his first start because everybody was like, "Play Rohan, play Rowe, play Rowe," because Rowe was just it was his time, man. It was his time, and they beat Tennessee that night in overtime, and LSU rushed the field. If you could probably bring up the image of LSU rushing the field that night, and that to me is the true beginning of the golden age of LSU football. I mean, like Kevin Falk coming in. There's things along the way. You beat Florida in '97. There's some things that get the momentum going, but when they beat Tennessee that night, they kicked the door down. And in 2001, they're in the SEC championship. In 2002, they're a play away from the SEC championship. In 2003, they're in the Natty.
That's the formula.
I mean, that was it, bro. That was a cool trip down memory lane. How did we get there?
I have no idea.
I have no idea
Oh,
how we
Andrew
got
Whitworth.
Yes,
Andrew Whitworth.
This
That is where it
Tofield clip
started.
Is insane.
Serious.
it's insane.
It's
That-
insane.
That run is insane.
You talking about the run down the sideline?
Yeah, that run.
Look at Saban. He is so
knows.
fired. He's like, we're here, boys.
Brandon
I mean-
Tofield was
I mean,
so
they were
good.
up 10-3, so
Huh?
that was
Yeah.
that was a big run.
Rohan hit Robert Royal in overtime that night. The ball looked like it was. The ball looked like it was like a shot put, like a medicine ball in the air. I mean, it just kind of like floated into the air and it just fell into Robert Royal's stomach. It was an unbelievable. And then Damian James from Karen Crow, Louisiana, blocked down an out route to the Tennessee sideline, to LSU sideline, to a Tennessee back, and the place flooded.
There's no better feeling.
No better feeling. I'm standing down there. I'm somewhere down there, and I mean, you were like looking around, thinking, "We're here.
Yeah, we're on
We're
the field
here.
now.
We're here. Like this is LSU's about to be good."
They took the goalpost down.
They ripped him down that night.
Yeah, that became a
That,
problem.
that became like that was one of the reasons why they were like lower these things because they're gonna kill somebody.
But once they got him down the first time, that became the goal every time. It's like,
Yeah.
we can get these some bitches
I mean,
off
people
the
were
field.
walking down Nicholson with an upright. You know what I mean?
Goalpost.
Like, guy was walking out of that, like, remember that, that orange flag on top of the goalpost? Guy like cheering, like, "Go Tigers!" I mean, people
Climb
were
the goalpost for
losing
it.
their mind. That was the night that they brought Saban up to. They used to put game day threw a golf ball at the back of him, and it, I mean, just zoned in like a laser on the back of his head. pong, off of his head. And he's like over the desk. You know, they're like, oh, my God, these people are going to kill him. We got to get him out of here. It will take 15% off of your initial visit if you suffer from chronic illness recovery, athletic performance, chronic dehydration. .22 Florida Boulevard. Go Express Auto Sales is online at goexpressautosales.com, or you can search them on Facebook and social media at Go Express Auto Sales, the newest addition to the family of Go Chevrolet. Remember, Go Chevrolet is located down in Laplace, Louisiana, but now welcoming aboard Go Express, the new used car lot located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Papa Earls, the fine spice, originating right down here in South Louisiana by our guy Mark Pop Norman. Developed it back in 2018 and won Amazon's Newcomer of the Year in 2019. They pride themselves in having 30% less salt and sodium than the leading brands at the same price point. You can find them locally. Look for Papa Earls at Rouse's, Calandro's, Mathern's, High Neighbor, and more. Do you have questions about your finances? Are you looking for recommendations from a skilled financial advisor? Get in touch with our friend Daniel Newman over at Edward Jones. You can find him easily by logging online and shooting him an email at daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. That is daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. Whether it is help with your 401k or just fiscal advice heading into the new season, get in touch with Daniel today. Best way to do it? Email him, daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. He's our experienced financial advisor. Let him be yours, daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Remember about that promo code over at GoFlow IV. Just tell them Jordy Culotta Show. You get 15% off of your initial visit. Brody Miller covers LSU over at The Athletic. He did a tremendous job in all of the news that was coming out during the coaching searches and the coaching fillings of the assistant spots and the recruiting season and the roster management, and LSU still doing work, as we talked about the tight end from the University of Notre Dame, George Takakis. Takis.
Yeah, Takis.
Jesus.
Makakis.
No cock.
And LSU possibly could be in on him. Brody Miller covers LSU, as we said, for The Athletic, and joins us now here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Good morning, Brody. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you all?
Doing good, buddy. Have you had a chance now to exhale after the last month and a half of covering LSU? I can't imagine what it's been like to be on the beat.
I have, yes. You've probably noticed I haven't written con.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's been a while. I mean, granted, there's never, I mean, it's like our favorite joke on the show, right? There's never a slow week, but this year might trump the rest. So, yeah, I took a little bit of a breather there.
Where are you right now? Are you out west?
No, okay. So every year I do an NBA trip with some buddies where we just do like a little weekend road trip to a few NBA games. So
Nice.
I'm back in Louisiana now. But yeah, we hit up Utah for a Jazz game, the Nuggets game in Denver. It was a fun trip.
Oh,
Great trip.
Wow, that is a great trip. Best facility?
Ooh, Denver was a really good one, but they were both awesome. They actually were.
So what is that? How do you choose that trip? Are you looking for the city or are you looking for a team?
Great. I think it usually started like the first one we did because I was in Louisiana, so we did Pelicans, then a Rockets game, then a Dallas game. You know, so we have a buddy in Denver right now. But to some extent, like one year it was like, hey, we really want to see LeBron and Kawhi while they're in LA, so we did a Clippers and a Lakers game and a game in Phoenix. So a lot of the time it is stars too.
Brody, have you ever rushed the field for anything as a student?
I have never. I got to Indiana a year after the Watford shot against Kentucky, so that would have been the only time I would have. I have never, and now I guess I'm too old, so I've never rushed the field.
Now we are too old for sure. What was more impressive what LSU did with being able to salvage the recruiting class, or their backs up against the wall and how they were performing in both the transfer portal? What was your takeaway of LSU over the last couple of weeks of work that they've done?
Yeah, I I think the Perkins one is just more of a surprise in a way, in
Yeah.
terms of what people might have thought in December, say, where I think the transfer stuff probably has greater actual value, just the plugging a just depleted roster, patching holes. You're not back to where you want it, but you are stable. You can compete a decent bit this year. I think that is obviously more important, even if a lot of the additions aren't as, sexy. But the Perkins one might be a bigger signifier, just the idea that, okay, the number one question that we all had was, could they win battles like this? And this is kind of just a signifier. Hey, they can play ball. They can do these things a little bit. And it is a double-edged sword because at the same time they lost on a bunch of major in-state kids. So I guess I don't want to give them too much credit. But yeah, I think that's a big one. I think that really kind of surprised me more. But at the same time, I don't think anyone can understate the way they've done the portal. Because the thing I give the credit, and I think we've talked about this before, is it's not just that they got a lot of guys. It seems like they did it in a responsible, for lack of a better word, way. It was, hey, we're going to balance the years, make sure we're actually kind of getting things back where each position is actually, freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors, getting guys who are character guys, getting guys who want to be there, not just, and maybe ignoring talented players who have some red flags. I think they did a good job of that. So I think that's probably the more impressive part.
What are you looking most forward to seeing in spring? Is there a competition? Is there a group? Is there a specific coach on the field? Is there anything that you're going into spring that you're most eager to see?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it doesn't fall in the exciting category, but I think I'm just intrigued by Matt House, so I'm looking forward to seeing him at DC because, and I say this as somebody whose job it is to know things, but at the same time, like, my thing with Matt House right now is I know he's a good coach, but I don't know an extreme amount. Even when you talk about like what Kentucky did well those years of things, it was like they had a good defense. There's no like with Bo Pelini or all these things, what they are, and I don't have this deep understanding of Matt House yet. So I think I'm really interested to see what Matt House is like as a DC and what he wants to do with all these guys. But I think the other that maybe also isn't as fun, but it's so important is just what the corner pecking order looks like because it is. I just have no idea. Is Mekhi Garner a guy who's ready to play right away? All those kind of things. I'm really intrigued to see how, those three transfers there, do they move like a Jay Ward around, stuff like that. I don't know what they're going to do. And then I think the obvious other one is I want to see like our Miles Frazier and these guys, are they ready to go? So I guess transfers are the theme there.
Yeah. Were you able to get any return on Mike Denbrock and House as recruiters? Were they able to make an impact in this cycle?
I do believe Matt House had an impact with Harold Perkins. Obviously it was tough because they were still, literally in the playoffs. But at the same time, I think he was able to hop on some Zooms with him. He was able to kind of have a little bit, I think most of the credit there goes to the Frank Wilsons and Carter Sheridans of the world. But still, I think he was able to kind of lay out a plan a little bit. Denbrock, I do think he was involved in recruiting Danny Lewis, for example, and some others that they didn't exactly work out.
Yeah. Brody Miller joining us here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Remember to follow him on Twitter at Brody A. Miller to keep up with what's happening. What was the biggest task that you thought that Brian Kelly had to take care of first and foremost? Was it the roster management?
I think the number one task, the honest answer is probably roster management. Yeah, just because that is a multi-year process. It's one that probably could be so overwhelming because you really are threading this needle of needing to patch a roster right away, but not wanting to do it in a way that is mortgaging your future. And I think that they did a pretty responsible job there of balancing, freshman transfers, sophomore transfers, maybe avoiding this guy because he doesn't fit the long-term thing, avoiding this guy because he's got some red flags and what the guy's going to still make the locker room better, making transfers, the portal a nuanced thing that actually is helping you in the long term and not just patching holes. That's really tricky. And obviously we'll see if it really is good, but I think that's the biggest challenge. And the other, which does go hand in hand with that, is, rebuilding a culture, and again, I don't think they literally kicked guys off, but, we all know there were 2, maybe 3 guys who, had some issues that, maybe were nudged out a little, and I think those are things that are really important. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's good that, so many staff members lost their job. Of course not. But at the same time, he is going in there and really trying to reset that culture. So I think those are the 2 biggest challenges he has, because those are the ones that take years. Those are the ones that aren't going to be quick fixes. And, again, I will not even pretend to know if the results are there yet, if he's actually changed the culture. God, no. But it does seem like he's making, he's really going for it and not just making half measures.
How do you feel about Joe Burrow being in the Super Bowl this Sunday?
Well, you do know I'm a Bengals fan, right?
I do, yes. But
Okay, I was like, sure. Yeah, no, it is a very cool feeling, but as I've joked with you before, it is very frustrating that the coolest sports month of my life is somebody I covered very closely, and I have to feel weird about cheering publicly for. But
Get emotional.
But no, it's a cool thing, man. Being a Bengals fan it's not even apathy. It's like you were just trained to just know how it's going to go. It's just It's not even like, oh, I don't care. No, Cincinnati cares a lot. It's just like, yeah, but they're 10-6. Oh yeah, they're going to lose in the first round. It is just a literal training, and this is just such a surreal run, and that's something that, quite frankly, only Joe Burrow can kind of change and do. He shifts the makeup of a building like nobody has ever seen.
What was the thought on Zach Taylor before Joe Burrow got there? I feel like he was kind of on the outs. It has a lot of similarities to what probably has happened at LSU in my mind. So, your thoughts on Zach Taylor pre-Burrow era?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think I genuinely did notice, like, even during the 2-14 year or the second year, there was a thing of, oh, these guys are actually playing hard. Like they weren't losing games because they were just a mess. And I would almost compare. Not one-to-one, but I'd almost compare Taylor's early years to kind of what we saw with Dan Campbell and the Lions this year, where everyone's like, I think they actually do play hard. And I did notice that. And you did notice that the biggest thing Taylor, I think, gets credit for these 3 years is genuinely changing a culture in a building and, like, bringing the right guys around and making a building where everybody flat out loves each other, which is so hard in the NFL of all things. So I think you saw the building pieces of that. So I had trust. Did I think he was a schematic genius? Did I think he was going to, be the guru to get the most out of Burrow? I didn't exactly. No, I'd be lying if I said I did. And do I know if he's a top 5 coach? No, but I think he does deserve a lot of credit for the infrastructural stuff he's done. He seems like a really sharp, savvy CEO more than I think I realized.
Has Burrow built the expect to win for the Bengals fan? Do you expect to win this Sunday?
Yeah, God. The reason that's a great question is because every single round, other than maybe the Raiders game, I'm like, oh, they're going to lose, but who cares? They're ahead of schedule, right? Like, and that's a good thing. It's like, oh, they're ahead of schedule. This is great. And then once you get here, it's like, oh no, losing the Super Bowl is going to, like, that would sting. So I think Bengals fans understand. They understand they're a 4-point dog. I think there's a general understanding that, like, Rams are really good, but I really do believe the overall just gut feeling is one team has Joe Burrow, one team has Stafford, who's also very good, but like. There's just, you guys know better than anyone. There's just this weird narrative, like movie star thing with Burrow. They're just like, it's like Brady and some of these guys where you just are like, yeah, but they're going to figure it out. Right. Yeah. And I do think, and that's literally what I said before the national championship game at night. I'm like, hey, part of me think Clemson's a tough matchup, but I think they'll just figure it out. And I think there's a lot of Bengals fans that feel that way. So there is a confidence.
How do you watch the game on Sunday? Do you have a watch party, or is this a Bengals fan watching the Super Bowl for the first time in your life with the Bengals in
it? I was incredibly torn on that, like really, because part of me is like, I need to just be locked in the room. I think I have like 6 friends, like a very small group of friends coming over and to watch, like people who get it, who know how to treat me in that moment.
You know where your spot to sit, to keep your mouth shut.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's how I'm going to do it.
Enjoy it, man. What a cool time to be a Bengals fan as the future looks incredibly bright.
Bengals or Bengals?
I appreciate it.
Yes, is it Bengals or Bengals?
Chris Blair came at us, and we've been saying Bengals.
Wait, say that again?
Bengals or Bengals? I've been saying Bengals, and I felt like I got reprimanded by the LSU voice by yesterday.
I was going to say, I've seen those tweets the last few weeks. I've said Bengals my entire life, so if I'm wrong, I will own it.
You know what? You just put the ice in there's the conversation. Thank you very much, Brody. Enjoy the rest of the week, buddy.
Always a good time, guys. Take care.
Always. There. From the Cincinnati Bengals.
It's Bengals.
From the Bengals.
Bengals.
Fan. I love that.
A Bengal tiger.
Blair, call in.
What a square.
It's a Bengal tiger.
What a square.
It is.
He went straight for the pronunciation guide. He was looking through the media.
Here's the pronunciation right here. I could play it,
Bengals.
but here's the Bengal.
Play it.
Bengal. I don't know if y'all can hear it.
Is that from the website, or is that like the official pronunciation?
This is the American pronunciation.
No. That was a Bengals fan that just dialed in for his entire life. Say it again.
Oh, you got
Bengal
2 shows.
tiger.
Oh, you got 2 shows going on.
No, it was the Bengal tiger pronunciation. Sorry.
No.
Why would you lie about
No,
that?
you've lost that argument. You had two things playing. You
No,
had
I did. I know.
you had the
I
show
muted it, so
playing.
The show was playing, but you told me to play the Bengal Tiger.
Yeah, play the Bengal Tiger.
Well, I can't without this playing.
Yeah, mute the show.
Mute the show.
Mute the show.
Like and subscribe.
Okay, hold on.
This gives me a good time to tell you about Relief Med.
She looked right at us.
Yes,
and
it
said,
just
"No, I
bold-faced.
didn't."
No.
Lie.
I wasn't lying. That wasn't my intention. Was to
Wow,
play
and
the
she
show.
keeps on dumping
Jeez,
gasoline
y'all.
on it. For God's sakes, Miss
David.
Alligood, just say it in the
playing
principal's
it. I'm
office.
playing
We'll be
it.
with you in a minute.
David, I'm so sorry.
Are y'all hearing it?
Bengal tiger.
Say it again.
Bengal.
Bengal Tiger.
Say it again.
Bengal tiger.
Say it again.
Bengal tiger.
Bangle.
Bengal.
Yeah, I heard
it's a
Bengal.
bangle.
I
It's
heard
written
Bengal.
right here.
I don't care how
Bengal.
it's written. Say it.
He said
Say
Bengal.
it. Hit it
Bengal.
again.
Bengal Tiger.
Hit it again.
Bengal tiger.
It's over.
Bengal.
It's over.
I mean,
Chris
y'all are
Blair,
crazy, but
sit in
okay.
your corner. Just call basketball games, buddy. I mean, that's it. You just get this team on track. We'll handle the pronunciation. We just heard from a Bengals fan and from the
Care who's a fan.
Wikipedia.
This isn't about
I'm
the
going with
football
Wiki
team.
and Brody.
That's
Call the
option.
game tonight, Blair. Get
This
your
is
promo
just
code
about
at Relief
the
Med.
pronunciation of the Bengal Tiger.
Use the promo code Jordy01 at Relief Med. Sounds like
1.
you've never been, and it says it's Jordy1. Jordy1.
Relief Med will do that.
And your first time,
God, why
you'll
you
get
get so
15%.
mad?
It's not mad. It's not mad. It's a
Jeez,
passionate
calm
argument.
down.
It's a passionate
I
argument.
mean, it's just a pronunciation
Exactly.
of a tiger.
For God's sakes, do you have to come at people on
Bengal
social media?
Tiger. It's not
Simple
spelled
text will work.
B-A-N. It's B-E-N.
Do you call Mike a Bengal Tiger though? I think this is just for Cincinnati in this
I think it
case.
is too.
You just said Bengal Tiger.
Yeah, but for Mike, but for Cincinnati, it's the Bengals. And,
Why?
And for
I've always said Bayou Bengals.
Bengals.
Bayou Bengals.
Okay.
Bengals.
If anybody
Bengals.
wants to jump in here, and
I think it's a
support
Cincinnati
this,
accent.
I mean,
It might be a little bit of the accent.
Little
up
Midwest?
there. Yeah, a little. How you doing? Okay then.
Relief Med. Remember Relief Med, RELEAF med.com. Use the promo code Jordy1 to get 15% off of your initial visit over to Relief Med. Same day video phone with a doctor's appointment. You got to pay your $199 annual fee if you haven't done that already. But that'll get you over to Relief Med, where you can go through the process, complete the confidential online registration, talk to the board-certified doctor. A lot of stuff going on right now. LSU basketball sliding 8 of the last 9. Kamara's being handcuffed up in Vegas. LSU finding and trying to find their way on the basketball floor. Saints getting a new coach.
How about women's basketball?
Women's
winning
basketball
against Ole
rolling.
Miss?
Rolling 4-point win last night for Coach Mulkey and the Lady Tigers. If you'd like to celebrate that, Relief Med. Jordy1 is
So still be on the
is the
team.
promo code.
Valentine's
Lloyd
Day.
is going to get down to some weed reviews here.
I'm talking to Jackie Boy. We might cut up the one we did. I'm feeling more
Okay.
confident in it.
Okay.
I was a little
All right.
blazed when I did it. And I was like,
Okay.
I don't know if this
Little
is good.
paranoia.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think I should put this on the internet.
It's legal. You have
Relief
your medical
Med.
marijuana card.
Oh no, I didn't care about that. I was more concerned about it's hard to watch yourself
Yes.
do something. I'm not much of a
Mm-hmm.
man in the mirror. I just kind of let it fly. So when I had to go back and critique, I was like, this is dumb, and I just
not
threw
doing
it,
this
threw
anymore.
It away.
Scrap
Yeah,
it.
I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Jordy1 is the code. Jordy1 is the
Is
code.
that just the first time code or every time? It's just your
Your
initial.
your initial visit.
Okay.
Your initial visit.
Maybe they can help with a little Super Bowl square.
Possibly so.
Get square
Possibly so.
420.
But that person would have to have their medical
Correct.
card, so it might not work for everybody.
That's why you got to go through the process over at Relief Med. LSU basketball tonight. Tigers, as we said, looking to get off of the schneid, as it has been a tough go over the last couple of weeks for LSU basketball.
What does that mean?
Schneid.
Your ass.
Yeah. I don't know where it comes
that
from, but I
right?
do know the
I
saying.
don't know if I've ever heard that.
Really?
Yeah.
Get off the schneid.
Yeah, you got to get off the schneid. Is that,
Okay.
is
That's
that
a
your
lip-
ass?
I don't know. It's a real Levitard moment. Where does that come from? What's the meaning of
Does
this?
it come from?
Yes. So LSU looking to bounce back
Can you get off the schneid?
for
you spell
for
it?
tonight's game versus Texas A&M in Reed Arena. This is one that LSU must win. I felt like this is a spinning record that we played for the last couple of weeks that you can just hit play on and hit the same narrative and same storyline for LSU basketball. I thought that Will Wade's press conference yesterday was one of the best that I've ever seen. It's transparent of a press conference from a coach in the middle of a losing streak as you'll ever find. And, you can say what you want about Wade, but he's not running from it. He's not trying to get away from it. He knows that LSU is dealing with some stuff that they've got to get right. And yesterday he pretty much told you, all of the stuff that they're dealing with. He was very open and honest about his team. He didn't make any excuses. He called himself out. He was accountable for some of the coaching that has not happened in the game, and some of the lack of preparation. I thought that he was extremely honest. I thought that he was almost overly transparent, but it just gives you an idea. I mean, that guy sat there for 40 minutes and answered every question about his team, and he knows, just like we've talked about, some of the things that they got to get right. They've got to get better in an offensive half court. They've got to get better at being able to defend the full court. They've got to knock down free throws when given the opportunity. I mean, you go back and watch that Vanderbilt game in the last couple of games for LSU, the amount of close shots that they have missed is just maddening, both for the players and for the coaches. I mean, there's nothing better for an offensive stretch in basketball where you're in a drought than to see the ball go through the net, just mentally. Like, okay, now we got that one behind us, go. And even when they get good, open, easy looks, they struggle to put it in. And I don't know if that's a confidence thing. It doesn't feel like it's a skill level thing. I mean, all these guys you feel can really handle the responsibility. But those are the types of things that they got to start. It just has to start flowing, man. It's got to start happening. And, it can never be too late to get this thing going. They need to start tonight. Texas A&M is a team who's been playing better. LSU a slight favorite in this game, which is kind of surprising at 1.5 points.
Give LSU a chance to bet on the freaking team, dude. I can't take them if they're giving up points again
On the road?
I mean, they're you know what they're doing. They got burned by LSU.
Opened at 2.5.
They got burned by LSU so often that now they're back on. It's a vengeance tour for Vegas. What's the over under?
111.5.
Oh my God! You can't do anything. Bet the over.
I mean, 111. What is that? 55-55.
That's a high school game.
It is. I mean, Jordan's team scored 52 last Saturday.
It's an elementary school game.
I mean,
is Texas A&M? They're 15-8.
Aggies are 15-8. Yeah, but they've played better over the last couple of weeks. And I thought that they played pretty good against LSU a couple of weeks back. This is the only game that LSU has won in this last 8-game stretch. Was versus Texas A&M.
A&M game?
Was versus Texas A&M.
It was like a month ago.
Doesn't it? I mean, feels so long ago that you're now packing back up and going to see them. But I mean, as we said, I know you've heard this, and it's just where LSU is. But they're in a must-win, and they got to get it right tonight, man.
A&M's lost a lot lately, right? Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina, LSU. Is that right?
Yeah, but I mean,
so is LSU.
Yeah, I mean, so is LSU. It's both teams, but I mean,
they've lost their last 6 games.
So you're both teams that are in a tailspin.
That's why the over under is so low.
Jeez.
Nobody can put a ball in a bucket.
This might be like watching paint dry tonight.
Yeah.
What a watch party it might be.
Scary.
What time is the game?
Go outside and watch the grass grow.
Watch party tonight?
Yeah, maybe we're a little cheap to the boys.
It's at 8.
Oh, gosh. No, I got a 6 o'clock tip.
6 p.m.
No, 6
Oh,
p.m.
shit.
What are you looking at over there? What is going on? Are we
I'm
sure
looking
that
at
A&M has
Texas
lost 6 in a row?
Texas A&M.
They have lost 6 in a row.
Basketball
Are we sure on that?
2018.
They have lost 6 in a row.
Yes.
But
I'm
the game
looking
is
at
at 6.
12thman.com. I mean, I feel like that would be
The game's at
accurate,
LSU, and they tip off at
apparently
9 tonight.
You got to get free tickets.
not.
Right.
The Rats will be playing too.
I just should go home.
I mean,
All right, we're going to talk to Mike Triplett next here of ESPN.com. He covers the New Orleans Saints. Triplett will be here and talking about what's next for Dennis Allen. What's the first order of business? Where are they looking at in the draft? A couple of questions for Triplett coming up here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Morales Roll-Offs. Get in touch with our friends over at moralesroll-offs.com. A local business, great customer service, great prices. They can offer that for both commercial and residential customers. Roll-off dumpsters are on the market over there at Morales. They can help you at 16155 Airline Highway. That is 16155 Airline Highway. They also rent U-Hauls over there, so if you're looking to move, go check out Morales
They get the best prices in town. Check them out online. MoralesRolloffs.com. MoralesRolloffs.com. Mike Triplett next of ESPN covering the New Orleans Saints.
To get off the schneid.
The Schneid.
Louis
Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. GEAUX, Chevrolet.com is where you can find them online. Dennis Allen was named as the New Orleans Saints head coach yesterday. Mike Triplett covers the Saints for ESPN.com. Make sure and give him a follow on Twitter as you can keep up with everything that's happening with the New Orleans Saints through Mike Triplett and ESPN by just following him over on Twitter at Mike Triplett is where you can follow him. Mike, good morning. How are you?
Well, there's not much going on with the Saints though. Right?
Slow news day.
At least it is. It is going slow for sure right now. Where do you start? Let's start with Dennis Allen. What was your reaction to Allen being called the next head coach for the Saints?
Well, obviously, I think we all thought he was the front runner all along, and I think for good reason. They didn't just pick the next guy in line; they picked a guy who. I think we were all prepared for him to probably get more attention league-wide and get some other interviews too and maybe get hired elsewhere. He's done such a great job with that defense, and even though he was not successful as the Raiders head coach in his first stint, I think everyone would view that as a positive that he has that experience because, you learn from experiences like that. And then, obviously – the Saints made it clear that continuity was important to them. They weren't looking for a new voice, a new direction, a new a roster overhaul, anything like that. So all signs pointed to Dennis Allen. But, of course, my second reaction is that guarantees nothing. It might be like Jim Caldwell replacing Tony Dungy. We saw that team go 14-0 and take on the Saints at the Super Bowl. Yeah. But if it doesn't work out, everyone will probably say they should have gone the Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin route, and that they were trying to hold on to the past. And Breeze and Payton aren't here anymore, and they shouldn't try to recreate what they used to have, and they should think fresh. So, obviously, it's like every other hire around the league this year. It may work out and it may not, but he makes a lot of sense, and he's done a great job for this team as defensive coordinator.
What do you make of the news around Pete Carmichael? I thought that it was surprising to hear that he will stay on, but not in the role as OC.
Yeah, I haven't been able to gather enough information on that to know for sure. I don't know if that's Pete's choice. I don't know if that's Dennis's choice. It remains to be seen. But unfortunately, after last season, changes to the offensive coaching staff wouldn't be shocking, especially since Sean Payton is leaving. I mean, there isn't a ton of continuity on that offense. You know, if it was the same quarterback or a lot of the same players, you know, you'd be like, oh, we don't want to change a thing. But that is a unit that could use some tinkering right now. So whether, you know, obviously Pete Carmichael, I think, you know, if he wants to be an offensive coordinator, every team in the league, especially at teams with, you know, defensive head coaches that need someone to run their offense, I think he'd be in high demand. I think he's got an offensive coordinator job if he wants one. So I don't know if that's his choice or not, but if they do bring in a fresh voice with fresh ideas, that might be something that unit could use right now.
You think there's a name that they're honing in on, or somebody that they may be looking at?
I don't know, but I'm sure Dennis. I mean, like any other head coach, you know, they go into these interviews. You know, it's a big part of how these guys get hired too. Is this is what my staff's going to look like? These are the kind of people I think will come to work for me. So I'm sure those names were discussed probably before he was even hired.
Alvin Kamara over the weekend, obviously in the news. We've learned a little since the arrest on Sunday, with the police report being published on Sunday night. What do you know? What's your reaction? What do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard for me to try to pretend like I have any legal opinion. But I mean, the police report at least indicates that it wasn't, you know, the claims don't appear to be exaggerated. It definitely was Kamara. Kamara himself admitted to police he was there, even though he had a different version of events. So, I mean, you know, this is not something that's going to go away. There's going to be court proceedings all throughout the year, and we'll find out how serious they are, and eventually find out if there's NFL discipline as well. And you know, the early indication is that you would probably expect there to be some. So, it's an unfortunate way to start the off season, and you know, especially when you consider how important he is to this team.
Mike, when you look at the first order of business as far as the roster goes for the Saints, it seems like quarterback obviously is going to get the attention there. Jameis looks like he's ahead of schedule as far as his rehab goes. Where do you expect kind of the Saints to go with him?
Well, I think he's a really good option. I would say he's probably the leading option. I mean, maybe it's much like Dennis Allen as a head coach. You know, they know what they've got in him. He was really impressive with the 14 touchdowns to the 3 interceptions, proving, you know, that interceptions weren't going to derail him. They won games when he was a quarterback. So I think he's a front runner, but I also think the Saints are going to aim really big at that position. So they consider themselves win now. They know that the defense is in good shape, and one quarterback could make a huge difference in addition to a couple other pieces they have to add on offense. So I think they will explore Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, everything in between. But I do think, you know, the odds-on favorite is probably Winston, and I would actually throw Teddy Bridgewater in there too, since he's a free agent that they're familiar with. And the fact that they have those good options, that actually, I could be wrong about this, but I feel like there's a middle tier that gets eliminated. I don't know why, if you could potentially sign a Winston or a Bridgewater as a free agent, that you would trade for a Garoppolo or a Baker Mayfield or Derek Carr or a Tannehill, even if those guys are available, because they cost so much more and they would cost the draft capital. But they're gonna have all these discussions because they know how important that position is.
And you mentioned Jameis Winston being like the lead dog. How much of his reclamation project do you think is credited to Sean Payton? And is it too much, or do you imagine that Jameis might go back to his old ways a little bit with turning the football over with Sean Payton not present?
Well, I mean, that probably depends on who's calling the offense. And if they like a little risk, I mean, obviously if they hired a Bruce Arians type, he might go back to throwing more interceptions. But what was important is that he proved that, you know, he's not defined. You know, the interceptions aren't automatic, I should say. He proved that, you know. Even with Drew Brees, we saw a period of his career where he was throwing 16, 17, 18, 20 interceptions when they were a little more risk reward. So it really depends on the philosophy. But if somebody wants to be like, hey, we're not going to turn the ball over, we're going to have a high completion percentage, we're going to have efficient offense, Winston can be that style of quarterback. But it really depends what they're looking for.
Mike Triplett joining us here, talking New Orleans Saints. You can follow him on Twitter at Mike Triplett, as Dennis Allen was named the head coach of the Saints yesterday. This still feels like they have the best roster, one of the best rosters in the league. Where do you sit on this roster going into the draft?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it'd be so naive to be like, the Saints, no problem. Drew Brees, no problem. Sean Payton, no problem. They got this. If left tackle Teron Armstead doesn't come back, because he's one of the top free agents, you can't just say, oh, no worries, they got this. Eventually that attrition piles up. But I completely agree with you. I mean, I have a hard time not thinking that I'll predict them to win the NFC South this year. Yeah. Now that Tom Brady is retired, the Saints were a 9-8 team this year, and with just this overwhelming collection of injuries, never getting Michael Thomas back, having Jameis miss as much time as he did. The offensive line injuries, I think, took such a toll on them when they had their 5-game losing streak. If they're just moderately lucky with health, I think they feel like more like an 11-6 team. Now, I'm not calling them the 13-3 team that they were just a few years ago, but I think they should have been a playoff team this year. They're very close to being a playoff team this year, and I would expect them to be better if they're a little healthier and they make just a couple of key additions at quarterback and receiver, and that could just be bringing Jameis Winston and Michael Thomas back, if not upgrades.
Yeah. Is there a player or a position group that you look at that they need to take care of in the draft?
Well, receiver for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, if not the draft, free agency, but quarterback is obvious. You guys asked about it at the beginning for good reason, but receiver is right there behind it. I mean, those are the two. Now, the offensive line becomes a little bit of a question mark if depending on what they do. If Teron Armstead isn't back, all of a sudden left tackle might be the second most important position on the roster. I assume Andrews Pete comes back. Cesar Ruiz needs to continue to develop. Obviously, Ramczyk will come back, and McCoy is good. So, but you don't. That's been sort of the defining part of this offense, and you don't want to lose that and let that slip. But when you say the draft, it's interesting. I think the Saints have a great roster this year, but they're going to need their next 2017 draft class if they want to sustain this, because this great defense, Cameron Jordan, DeMario Davis, Malcolm Jenkins, all in their 30s. Michael Thomas is approaching 30, 29. Alvin Kamara, running backs have a short shelf life. This is the team that's built to win now and maybe next year, but they're going to need great draft classes if they're going to avoid that rebuilding in a couple years.
What do you expect next for Sean Payton?
I think he has made it pretty clear he wants to do TV. I think he'll probably get that opportunity. But, I would also bet on him returning to coaching eventually, sooner or later. Unless I mentioned Bill Cowher earlier as another blueprint. I think we all thought that with him, too. What is it, 20 years later or whatever it is, 15 years later, he's never gone back into coaching. So maybe Sean will enjoy whatever he does next, and that won't nag away at him that he wants to come back.
How was Saturday night? I know that you've been around the Saints beat and covering the Saints for a while and have a good established relationship with Sean. What was Saturday night breaking bread and reliving some of the memories like?
Yeah, that was great. We get to tell some funny stories, some funny behind-the-scenes stories. People got to, give him a little flack for the times he was grouchy with us and stuff like that, and he had a lot of fun with it. So it's a nice gesture by him for sure.
Before we get you out of here, this weekend, Super Sunday, Super Bowl 56, Joey Burrow and the Bengals taking on L.A., Odell Beckham and Andrew Whitworth with some local storylines. What do you make of Burrow being there, and who do you like?
Well, that's really cool for Whitworth. I mean, to get there at age 40, or is he even 41 now? But then again, how old do I feel that I covered him when he was at LSU?
We were talking about that this morning.
Good God. The LSU times are really cool. Look, I mean, I would pick the Rams. I did pick the Rams. We had to turn in a pick, and I think I picked them to win by 10 points. But I would not bet $1 on it, because from week one,
That's right.
From week one of this season, when the Saints beat the Packers 38-3, and every week in between, there were, 2 or 3 results every week that made absolutely no sense in the NFL this year. I don't think there were more unlikely upsets. Here we have 2 4 seeds in the Super Bowl. It's been the most unpredictable, no sure thing season that I can ever remember covering the NFL. So that could very well favor the Bengals coming away as an unlikely Super Bowl champion.
Mike, last one, you can remember this, but Saban, when he left LSU in 2004 and took the Miami Dolphins job, the culture that was implemented in Baton Rouge at LSU, it was so thick and it was so evident that it was able to last through the players that he had recruited and for some time after. Almost the first 3 or 4 years of Miles's reign, you could feel Saban's presence still in that program. With Dennis Allen now in, how long do you think you can stretch the culture that Payton had in place over the last 16 years into the next life of New Orleans without him?
Yeah, I mean, you're only as good as the results. I mean, even if Sean Payton had stayed, there was no guarantee that they were going to continue to have success. So, but yeah, it's probably a lot of the little things, the structure of the organization, the coaching staff they've built, with assistants like Ryan Nielsen and Chris Richard and Michael Hodges on that defense, the front office structure with Jeff Ireland doing such a good job with the college scouting department, how they work together, like all those things that they don't have to build from scratch. We're already hearing Dennis Allen might change what the offensive coaching staff looks like. Obviously, he's his own man. He's a different person. They're going to have to overhaul this entire roster with good draft classes and good free agency. They weren't able to do that in 14, 15, 16. So there's no guarantees. But there's just a lot of known things that they know. They like how this operates. And that's a great starting off point. And that is a good comparison to what LSU was like after Saban left.
Mike, good job, man. Thank you for the news this morning. I know that you've probably got a pretty busy day with everything happening around the Saints. Thanks for squeezing us in, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right, man. There's Mike Triplett checking in this morning from New Orleans as we talk a little bit about what's going on down there with the Saints, coaching changes, Alvin Kamara, what could be next, draft, as the Saints are all up in the air, man.
I know. I was going to ask him, but he was obviously it was time to end it because he got a busy day. But how much of Sean Payton is like? How much are his fingerprints all over the draft classes of the New Orleans Saints? Like, is he really involved? Because I know he likes to kind of wheel and deal a little bit at the deadline. I had no idea how much if that was Sean
he's
Payton.
Definitely involved.
Yeah.
He's definitely involved. I think that a lot of the personnel stuff came down to what Payton wanted. I think that's a really a large reason why they're in the salary cap situation that they're in. I mean, those guys are able to work miracles, turn water into wine, really, with what they do with manipulating the numbers against the cap. But the reason why they're in that position to start off with, I think, is because Payton's just saying, hey, sign him. I want that. Got to get that guy. Make sure we get that guy back. And next thing you know, you're $75 million over the cap. And, you got to start to work some magic. So maybe there is a sense of relief from the upper management of, hey, at least we don't have to get bullied into picks anymore. You know what I mean? Like, give up everything for Mark Ingram right now. Like,
do it. Press the button.
That doesn't make any sense. Do it.
Get Davenport.
Yeah, right. Like, I'd imagine that a lot of that was
trade up for Tommy Stevens.
Payton. Absolutely. Joe Brady wants him. We're getting him.
We're getting him.
You know what I mean? That's definitely Payton. You know what I mean? The Saints are probably like, no, dude, come on. This is stupid. It's like, we're not letting him get him.
Sean's just swishing a glass of wine around there. Why don't we make a trade?
He just said receiver was the position of need, but
yeah,
mock drafts have the Saints taking Matt Corral.
I can't
Really?
I can't see
This is a
I can't see
post-senior
Dennis Allen
mock draft.
spending his first round pick.
That's a statement.
I can't see him spending a first round pick on Matt Corral either, but I mean, you need a quarterback, and
Yeah.
you need a youthful quarterback.
I hope they re-sign Jameis for a year.
You think Jameis would take one more 1 year deal?
Well, he's got to prove it again.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the knee injury, so I mean,
He was looking so, like, at least he was so bought in.
He
You could tell
was.
he knew that if he could get out the other end of this thing and put up some big numbers,
he was going to sign a
get
big
paid.
payday. He was going to pay.
He was in
get a big
shape.
pay. And he still might.
Yeah.
He still might. But I think that's, I mean, I don't know now without Payton how you sell New Orleans as a really good fit for any quarterback. I mean, that was such kind of the trump card. Like, you can go wherever you want, but you're never going to find a coach like him. But now that it's an even playing field, and Carmichael's not going to be there, which is strange.
I don't know what role they're going to find for him. I don't know what that means.
Might be management.
I don't know if that's a good.
He looks like management.
Well, yeah, it seems like it was not like he requested.
Looks like your accountant.
Yeah, he didn't request to not be OC either. Like I would imagine this was you can stay, but you're not going to stay in that office.
I don't know, man. I mean, he's one of those names that you're surprised that hasn't gotten more looks at head coaches to me. I mean, like, he's the offensive coordinator of the New Orleans Saints.
It's like the Eric Bieniemy thing, though. It's like he's really calling plays.
But I mean, he hadn't had that as many interviews as Bieniemy's had.
No.
I mean, Carmichael, I think, was interviewed maybe for the L.A. Chargers job when it opened up a couple of years ago. But other than that, I don't know if he's had too many sit-down requests from franchises on him being next. And if you think about what he has been the title of, and he's still working together with Payton to game plan, and I think for a couple of years there in the middle of Payton's run that Carmichael had play-calling duties. And Payton would just kind of fly over the top and kind of make sure he liked what he heard going out there. But, I mean, that guy comes with a lot of experience. He comes with a lot of numbers and stats and records. I mean, I can't believe that he hasn't gotten more of just an interest look. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk to the best offense in the league. Let's talk to their offensive coordinator. I mean, usually that's how that works. Who's the best defense in the league? Baltimore. Hire their coach. You know what I mean? Who's the best? Who's got the best offense in the league? Kansas City. Hire their coach. That's why it is strange that Bieniemy hasn't had
looks.
Well, he has had looks,
but he hasn't gotten a job.
But he hadn't gotten the clearance.
I think it's a lot of what you just said. It's kind of Andy Reid, like not calling the plays, but like hovering or at least listening and being like, whoa, let's do this. You know, they definitely game plan together. And Andy Reid is so established.
Well, it was a lot like Tommy Reese explained about Brian Kelly. If you remember when Kelly was the sit down with Ryan Russillo on Russillo's podcast, a part of the Ringer podcast network, was Russillo sitting down with Tommy Reese, and Reese asked why or if he was looking forward to having full power over the offense. You know, I mean, under Brian Kelly, he was explaining that, I got to call the plays, and I was the offensive coordinator, but there were some rules and some things put in place where, you couldn't call certain formations and plays on third down and shorts. There's certain things that you couldn't call with personnel in the game that he had control of, that you could just glance down over at him and he would either shoot you a look or some type of an eye widening or, some type of eyebrow raising to say,
timeout.
Yeah, that's not going to work. We can't do that. So I think it's a lot like those types of situations.
Tommy Reese has to feel so free now. I mean, and I think it's a good thing that like Brian Kelly's going to come into LSU and do the same thing for the first year. I would imagine like that's why he got his guy that he wanted from Cincinnati, Denbrock, because he trusts him. He knows that they're going to be aligned with what their thinking is on the offensive side of the ball. But if you're Tommy Reese, like finally I don't have BK like peeking over my shoulder. I can call the offenses that I want to call, and you'll have the same kind of feeling for, I would imagine, whoever comes into New Orleans, because Dennis Allen's a defensive guy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be your show to run whenever you get the offensive coordinator job for the Saints.
No, absolutely. I agree. It'll be interesting to see where Dennis Allen goes, as Mr. Hyde says, or excuse me, as Jeff Marsan says, Eric Bieniemy's contract expires with Kansas City. Maybe New Orleans makes a run at him at OC, and that's why they spent so much time with him on Saturday. That could be
hard to walk away from Kansas City.
It would be. But, I mean, if you got the reputation of I can't get a job because they think that Reed and Mahomes are the ones that are building Kansas City and I have nothing to do with it. Well, if I go to the New Orleans Saints, he's got to have enough money. You know what I mean? It can't be like the money thing. So if he goes to the Saints and they're in a total almost rebuild overhaul mode, especially on the offensive side, where Dennis Allen is kind of looking for somebody to say, hey, look, I'm the head coach and you run this thing. And if you want to be a head coach in the next 2 years, you get this offense stable and right. And, buddy, there's no Andy Reid excuse here. There's no Patrick Mahomes excuse here. There's no Sean Payton excuse here. This is your gig. You come run the offense, get it right, put up the numbers, get them winning, get in the playoffs, make a run, and next thing you know,
you'll be a head coach.
You'll be a head coach somewhere.
That makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
So maybe we'll see, man. We'll see. We appreciate you starting your day with us here on this Tuesday. LSU basketball tonight. They've got to get right over at Texas A&M This is a must-win. As we said, Tigers are a 1.5 favorite going up against Buzz and the crew inside Reed Arena. We'll wait for that game.
Three-piece
The
Buzz.
game tips off
What
at 6
time?
o'clock.
6 o'clock.
6 p.m.
And the over-under is 131, not 111.
131.
Yeah.
What am I looking? What was I looking
I
at?
don't know.
What the hell were you looking at? You were wrong.
Jeez.
Bengals.
What website are you on?
What internet do you have?
What about Kyler Murray? We never talked about that again.
I mean, you know, it
Unfollowing
kind
the
of
Cardinals.
kind of says what it. I mean, it
says what it is.
It is what it is, man. I mean, he's obviously
So
pissed
dramatic.
off and in a bad state. But Kyler Murray has scrubbed his Instagram account of all but
All
2
Cardinals.
photos, and that is the 2 photos of him and Cowboys receiver CeeDee Lamb at the Pro Bowl, and the other one is him and
Michael Parsons.
winning the Heisman Trophy.
Going to Dallas.
No, he ain't going to Dallas.
You
You
ain't going to
can't really
Dallas.
read into the Instagram. He's going back to Oakland. He's going to pick up the ball and bat.
That'd be tight.
You think so?
No,
Was he the
I
7th
Oh.
pick?
think the 5th.
Yeah, he's like-
Fifth or
seventh
seventh?
or ninth.
Yeah, he was.
Something
He was a
like
top
that.
10 pick.
Yeah.
He's a top 10 pick in baseball. But yes, it looks like Kyler Murray is pissed off at the Cardinals. I don't know. You know what I mean? It seems like a lot of soap opera stuff. We were talking about soaps earlier.
We had a wild show.
Sure.
Yeah, we did.
Covered a lot of ground.
We did.
He's
wonder if
so
it-
good. Like,
I know. I
what
wonder
will
if
happen
it's
with him?
Cliff Kingsbury. Maybe they're not jiving.
Maybe
He
so.
seems like somebody that would have a little drama in his life. Probably slept with his girlfriend.
Did y'all
No,
know
you got to
that,
watch out for Cliff, dude.
Murray and Cam Newton are the only players in NFL history with 10,000 passing yards and 1,500 rushing yards after their first 3 seasons.
Okay. I was waiting for the caveat.
No, yeah, after the first 3 seasons, he and Cam Newton.
Damn.
He was the 9 overall pick.
Nine.
Draw.
Michael Vick really
That's
wasn't throwing
crazy.
that thing at all. He was just straight up running.
Little fake throw.
Little fake slide.
That
Big
pump
slide.
fake in the open field,
Was
dude,
just-
just deadly.
Man, dude,
Deadly.
Watch Michael Vick do it and watch Russell Wilson do it and see which one is respected. Like, Russell gets away with it, but Michael Vick, they were.
Kyler Murray's too.
Yeah.
I mean, Kyler Murray's ability to get away from people is.
He's
Runs,
like
dude, his little legs.
he runs
It's-
like
it's
a
a
bad
ma-
little kid.
It is.
He literally runs
He
like
does.
a bad little kid.
He does. He
It's
does.
like
Carries
a,
his feet.
like your little cousin. Like he gets the ball. He
You
just
can't even see his feet. You got to chase your kid in the parking lot. You know what I mean?
Come on, bro, come on.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna pull a hammy.
It's on the loose.
Yeah. All right, we appreciate you being here. Hit that like and share. Mikey will be back with you tomorrow. Chad Jones in studio. Looking forward to that mic'd up. That'll be a good one. Compliments of our friends over here at FM Digital Media. Make sure and give them a follow on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
Mailbag tomorrow?
Mailbag tomorrow. Yes, mailbag coming back here on the Jordy Culotta Show. 8:15 tomorrow. We'll answer your mailbag questions. However you hear this show, if you can DM, email, everybody's email address is at Jordy Culotta Show. At Jordy Culotta Show. Katie, Jordy, Lloyd. Just email
Working on
in.
Stewie.
Stewie's on FM.
Oh,
FM.co.
oh, big dog. Took the leap.
So,
Email me for those Super Bowl picks, Super Bowl squares. Then I'll
yes,
send
Super
you a
Bowl
link.
squares.
Lloyd, that's what happens when you're a player, bro.
That's right.
Email
bro.
email Katie for the Super Bowl squares link, Katie at JordyCulottaShow.com, and we'll get you set up. Looking forward to it. We got a lot of cool stuff to give away, man. John Solon Spillers is in. Fred's is in. GoFlow doesn't
GoFlow.
know they're in, but they're in.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
No, they're in. They're in.
Sean doesn't know
They're
he's in.
Go Eats is in. It's all good, man.
It's all good.
Who wants a car?
Yeah.
Free roof,
Yeah,
free
right.
dumpster,
Like Oprah.
whatever.
You get a
Whatever.
car. You get a
Yeah,
car.
what did we almost give away? Oh, the Spark.
Yeah, the
Chevy
Spark. Yeah.
That was our last Super Bowl pool.
No, that was
That was,
the
March
March
Madness.
Madness.
Oh my gosh, the Chevy Spark.
March
Still out
Madness.
there.
Still
That's
out
what
for
there.
grabs. Chevy Spark.
A perfect bracket.
Go Chevrolets then.
That would have been great.
Go Chevrolet.
Yeah, Chevy Spark coming
All
up.
right, enjoy your Tuesday. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Make sure and hit that like, share, comment button before you get out of here. Thank you again. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We're driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.